Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. Very happy to have you guys here today. As you can see, the background music is slightly different. I figured it's the fall season and it's no longer springtime and birds and rivers and stuff, so it's changed to a Yule log sound effect thing, you know, with the nice crackling fire hearth and all that good stuff. Anyway, hope you guys like it. Hope it's easier on the earbuds, ears, earlobes, earballs, ear phalanges. Who knows what makes up an ear? I don't. Anyway, hello there to Jeff and Hayden. Hi. I see that Jeff is still avidly plugging One Piece. You gotta admire the tenacity of this man. Oh my goodness. That's oh wait, I'm on the wrong chatting screen. I'm on the Twitch chatting screen. I looked at it and I'm like, why is this bugging out? That's why. Hold up. Please stand by. There we go. Much better. Much better. Yeah, like I said, gotta admire the determination. Hi Hayden. You completely forgot it was Thursday? Well, you're lucky. You hit it right at the beginning of the stream, so you haven't missed anything. No more birds. Yep. Just a fireplace in the background. Cano Gregoire. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Welcome. Today we are going to be doing a book reading. We are going to be doing a bedtime story. Yeah, I hope you guys like it. As you can see, I'm not screaming wildly at the mic, so I'm gonna try to make my voice nice and soft. I keep saying that I will, and then I never actually do, so I'm actually gonna try today. You have notifications turned on. Ah, there you go. Boom. Happy Thursday. It's a YouTube stream. But yeah, I'm gonna do a recap for the people who may or may not know, people who might be new to the stream, people who don't know the context of the story. I'll give a recap on the story so far. And as always, this is a story that is episodic in nature, so you could just listen to a chapter and dip. You can come back in an hour and listen to another chapter and dip again, and you won't be confused because it's all episodic. It's all a character-driven story arc story. Kicking back and oh, okay then. Alrighty. As well, yeah, hope I could help just make the mood relaxed. Anyway, you get a chance to read any more One Piece yet? No. I have started it, but I have not read much more than as far as I got earlier. Where Luffy was in a bar with a bunch of pirates and some ninja guys came in and started, yeah. Anyway, I haven't gotten much farther. Odds you'll have a semblance of an idea what's happening after watching Warframe lore on a scale of 0 to 0.1. Hey, that's a small scale. Okay, I'd say maybe a 0.06. No, yeah, 0.06. I'd say maybe. We'll see. Anyway, a recap of the story. So this is and I have it prepared this time. I'm very proud of myself. I actually prepared the paste. Nope, that is the wrong. Ignore that. That is the wrong paste. That's the Discord paste to let Discord know I was going live. Whoops. Alright, this is the paste I want. There's a delay, so you guys are probably like staring at it going, what the heck is she posting? Here's the real paste. Only 0.06. Wait, on a scale of 0 to 1? That's like 60%. That's a lot. That is a lot. Oh, thank you, Windows. That's a lot. You still don't know any Warframe lore. That's fine. I have pasted a Warframe. So you're in luck because you have two different options if you wish to find out. Number one, I have a Warframe lore dump that I have done over on my Twitch that I have I've saved it as a collection, so you could look up the clips of me lore dumping about Warframe on Twitch. Or on Discord in the Warframe channel, I have posted some very well done Warframe lore dumps done by a guy whose name I can't remember right now, so let me go check what that is. Some YouTuber, you know, YouTubers. Warframe by Stallord D. I've really liked these videos. They're a little outdated, but they are very well done in my opinion. I like them. Anyway, you don't recommend it? No, what? How dare? How dare recommend that you don't watch my lore dumps? I spent so much time and effort dumping the lore. Anyway, you'll maybe read One Piece if you don't do it. Well, I don't care if you read One Piece or not. Hayden might care, but not me. Anyway, okay, so background on the story. I pasted it in chat a couple seconds ago. This series is called I'd Rather Fall Among the Stars. It is a Warframe fan fiction. There is nothing weird in it. Don't worry. It's got the Nebulux stamp of approval. It is one of my favorite. It is my favorite Warframe story I have ever read, counting canon content. Okay, maybe not counting canon content, but like, it's the best Warframe fan fiction out there, period. I've never found a better one than this. It's in like my top 10 best fan fictions I've ever read. It's amazing. I love it, which is why I'm reading it. So we are reading book 5, which is Seas Who Can Sing So Deep and Strong, which is the episodic one. We've already read books 1 through 4 on stream earlier, and we are on book 5. We are on chapter 85, but don't worry, I will explain what has happened in the story so far. And again, it is a character-driven story, so there's not a thread of plot connecting it. It's all character development, and it's very beautiful. You watched the lordums. Hey, you watched the lordums. I'm happy. Pat you on the head. You refuse to learn anything. Wow. Well, I can appreciate your support nonetheless, Jeff. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Wow, this guy refuses to learn anything about Warframe, but he still shows up. That's awesome. Anyway, so Seas Who Can Sing So Deep and Strong is book 5 of I'd Rather Fall Among the Stars. So we have our two main characters. You have Hades and Persephone. Or that's their call signs anyway. Their real names are Judge and Kore. So for watching lore dumps, that's a good thing, Hayden. I don't know what you salty about. Anyway, so Hades and Persephone are two Tenno, which are the main characters of the game Warframe. They're awoken Tenno currently, meaning they are aware of the truth of the Tenno, which this is one of those things where it's like the community doesn't spoil it ever, but by reading the book, it's kind of half spoiled already. So, whatever. They're awoken Tenno. They know all the juicy secrets. Anyway, so they have come a very long way from when they were introduced. So, a little bit of backstory about the Tenno is that when you wake up at the beginning of the game, you have no memory of your previous life. You start off with a completely blank slate, and eventually, over the course of the game, you regain some of your previous memories, but not all of them. So it kind of revolves around Kore being the main character, and she starts off the series kind of lost, and she can't really remember anything, but she can remember Hades, which is another Tenno. So when she meets him, she's kind of like shocked because she's like, I remember you. I don't even know who I am, but I remember you. And so they kind of have this deep bond between each other. And then, like, you know, Hades is always like, wow, Persephone's always been the person to help me out with stuff. So when when he awakens, they become very close. And they've both been scarred by their experiences. They've both been scarred by the void. Hades hallucinates a lot with the man in the wall, and has a hard time establishing what is real and what is not. And Kore has a very hard time opening up to other people. She doesn't like being around other people except for Judge, and she doesn't like, you know, touching other people and stuff like that. So it's character development. Those are the two main characters. I love them to pieces, and they're in a ship for sure. Then you have the two supporting characters, Punk and Sheik, aka Jude and Joy. Punk and Sheik are two supporting characters. Punk is an actual disaster, a walking disaster. He's just a mess all over the place, but he's really good at Conclave and sports and Rathum and all them things that aren't real game modes. But they're not real missions, but like he's really good at like competitive gameplay in that. So everyone's kind of like baffled by the fact he's actually competent at that, and he's so bad at everything else. He's Chroma slash Ember main. Hades at this point I think is an Anaros main, previously a Nova main, and Kore is a Saren main, previously Excal. So, and Joy, aka Chic, is Punk's partner, and she's the stock market exchange person. I keep introducing her as that every time I do the stream, and she's more than that. It's just that's the funniest part of her personality that my brain has latched onto. Like she makes money by like betting on the index and stuff, and I think that's hilarious. But yeah, she's bubbly. She's criticizing other people's fashion choices. She's pretty generous. Yeah, she's a people person. And then the last pair is the Empress and the Alpha, which have only been introduced recently into the story. The Alpha is a very quiet, monosyllabic, spooky boy who doesn't mean to be spooky. He just wants to pet his Kubro. He just loves animals, okay? He doesn't mean to be spooky. He can't help. He's just terrifying. And then the Empress is terrifying absolutely on purpose. She's like the urban legend of the people who like cannot fail a mission even if they tried, and they wreck house wherever they go, and she's just like wreaths destruction in her wake. It's pretty cool. And so she's very perfectionist, probably a min-maxer. I bet she's a min-maxer. No, not a min-maxer, but like she's probably someone who has anyway let's get into the story. That's enough of the backstory of the characters. And then besides them, there's the usual cast of Warframe characters, like the Cephalons. Kore has Ordis, and Punk has Skyla, who is a character made up for the story. And yeah, Kore has a deep history with Ballas. She is one of Ballas's Sarens, and apparently Empress was as well. But the Empress never really dealt with Ballas in person. It was all Kore for the most part. So she's got a lot of PTSD from being Ballas's pet project. So she really hates him. So at this point in the story, they have just finished the apostasy prologue. No, they've done the sacrifice. So they have done the sacrifice. So they both have Umbra. And oh, fun fact, canonically, Judge is the person who did the second dream and killed the twin queens in this version of the universe. He is the only one who has done that. But yeah, they have done the apostasy prologue. No, and the sacrifice, and they're dealing with the backlash of that. And that's about where we have left off. At this point in the story, let's see, Fortuna doesn't exist yet, but Cetus does. Yeah. Guess we'll just hop right in. Macaulay Mastra, hello. We are just about to start. I just did the weekly recap where I tell the story so far, which isn't much of a story. It's just tell you who the characters are. But yeah. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well. And we're gonna jump right into book 5 of the series I'd Rather Fall Among the Stars. Book 5 is called Seas You Could Sing So Deep and Strong by heartslogos. If you guys want a link to that, let me know, and I'll paste the link in. And let's hop into chapter 85. Oh, right, I need to adjust the little noise that happens whenever we have the chapter change. It didn't load earlier for some reason. Ooh, is it broken? It borked. Why it borked? Give me a moment. I'm just going to find the little sound effect. Where's the little sound effect? I have to scroll through the Vor speech to find it. I have the Vor speech downloaded in little chunks in the sound section. of my computer and all that good stuff. Where is it? It's not loading for some reason. Oh well, I guess it's not gonna happen this stream. Sorry about that, guys. Oh well. Oh well, I'm sure you can find out when the end of a chapter is. You guys are smart. Maybe you'll know what's happening, maybe. Let's see. Okay, for reals this time. Chapter 85. Sheik gives Judge a very stern look, and she puts her hands on his shoulders and shakes him a little. Listen, it's nice of you to ask if I'm okay and if Punk and I need help and stuff. It really is. You're a good friend, Hades. But listen to me. You need to try focusing more on your life and less on everyone else's. Have you slept recently?
What? Yes. Judge blinks, baffled. Where is this coming from?
The other Tenno begins to tick off on her fingers. You stabbed Ballas. You're the last Tenno who spoke to and saw the Lotus. You've got Umbra, I guess. And you've got the whole mess of Persephone and Ballas. The one Grineer queen left is still after your head. Do I need to keep going here? Hades. Judge. Can I call you Judge? I've known your name for a while now, but I've never used it. It's too similar to Punk's and I might slip, but I'm going to use it right now. Listen, Judge. Step off it. Turn around and take a good long look at yourself and get your mess together before trying to help anyone else with theirs. Sheik gives him another shake when Judge attempts to protest. Listen, you've got to help yourself before you go helping other people. It sounds selfish and weird, but it's the truth. You aren't helping nobody if you're sick or hurting or in trouble of your own and you put someone else's trouble on top of that. So, I'm going to ask you again, and this time you won't try to lie to me. Or I'm going to call the Alpha over, and you won't want to have him give you this talk. He gave me this talk once, and I don't think I've been the same person since in more ways than one. Sheik stops and gives him a meaningful look. Judge takes this as his cue to nod. All right. Sheik releases his shoulders and steps back, smiling. How are you today? Judge opens his mouth and slowly thinks about his answer as Sheik's smile somehow turns dark and ominous.
Tired?
Judge answers. Sheik nods and gestures for him to continue.
I haven't been sleeping so good recently. I've been getting distracted by stuff, and then I wake up thinking about the same stuff in the very middle of my sleep cycles.
She keeps gesturing to him to keep talking, looking encouraging, or what she thinks is encouraging. To him, he's mostly nervous about this, and Judge starts playing with his gloves.
I don't know what else to say. I've been getting a little sloppy and careless because I haven't been sleeping well. I'm not sure how to talk to Persephone right now. I mean, it's fine when we're out with you guys, but when we're by ourselves, I get nervous that I'll say the wrong thing or start talking about something she isn't ready for. So, there's that too.
Have you considered telling Persephone about that?
That defeats the point of me trying to be accommodating, though, doesn't it?
Have you met Persephone, Judge? Sheik's eyebrows raise. That's one girl you don't treat with kitty gloves. Judge doesn't say, you don't know her like I do. He doesn't say, you don't know how she cried. And he definitely doesn't say, but you aren't the one Corey looks to when she needs help. He does say,
it won't hurt to be gentle.
Sheik's mouth flattens into a disapproving line. Sometimes being gentle is how a person falls apart, Judge.
You know, I'm not really surprised you killed them, but you couldn't wait for me to use my Warframe abilities first?
Judge asks when he comes to the end of the trail of blood and body parts and finds Corey's Saren sitting down on a crate and checking down the barrel of her rifle.
Did you drop it?
I think my scope is off, Corey replies. And no, I couldn't wait for you because otherwise the target would have gotten away.
You did catch the guy, right?
Saren nods.
Are we leaving then?
Saren shrugs. If you want to.
Or?
Judge presses. Or? Corey holsters the rifle on her Saren's back and puts her hand on the hilt of her Nikana. We could make some Grineer very, very unhappy.
Right.
Judge says, not really knowing what he expected.
Does my Warframe get to eat any of them this time?
Race you, Corey says. Your pocket sand versus my spores. Judge grins and trusts Corey to know he's smiling, even if she can't see it. He holds his hand out to her.
The cephalons will do a kill count. Kills from explosives caught by my abilities count. Anyone caught between both of us isn't counted. First person to extraction with the most kills wins.
Saren and Inaros grasp hands.
Loser buys candy for the winner at Ostron,
Judge suggests. Deal, Corey says. On 3.
Deal, Judge confirms. Wait, primaries only?
Sure. 1,
2,
3. They jump apart and start racing down the hallway. Judge would feel sorry for the Grineer if he didn't think they had it coming to them. And also if the Grineer were anybody to feel sorry for with all the things that they do. Judge hears Corey activating Saren's toxic lash, and he feels Inaros' sand primed and ready for the first thing that moves. Judge and Corey both stretch their Warframe's arms out at the same time as a wave of sand sprays at the Grineer Power Fist, whose back is turned to him. And Corey's spores begin to bloom on a bombard a few feet to the Power Fist's left. The Grineer begin to move into action, but by the time more help arrives, Corey's corrosive blade has already cut down one bombard and spread her toxin down the corridor. But Judge's sand moves fast, and the Grineer turn to dusty ash in front of him as he cuts them down. Corey laughs. You aren't going to win going that slow. Judge grins.
Oh yeah? I'm just getting started.
Inaros leaps and spins, releasing a spiral of sand as Judge activates Inaros' sandstorm ability, and Corey lets out a fake yell of outrage as he quickly outpaces her.
Just because I don't use it a lot doesn't mean I forgot I have it,
Judge says, just barely seeing Corey's red and white Saren running behind him through the sand. You haven't won yet, Corey says, and he sees the trail of toxin gas that Saren leaves behind as she bullet jumps to keep up. She springs off one of Inaros' sand shadows and uses the wind of Judge's storm to push herself forward and cast another round of spores ahead, sliding to the ground with a spin and cutting their legs open before they can refocus their attention on her. The miasma cloud that follows is predictably lethal, and Judge can hear the resounding boom and burst of spores echo through the metal walls of the Grineer ship. I want the sweet fruit rinds, Corey says, just so you know, for when I win.
And I want the sweet stars, the pink and purple ones,
Judge replies.
You know, for when I win.
Yay. Dragon the Hedgehog, hello, welcome to the stream. It's the end of the chapter. Hope you guys are having fun. Inaros versus Saren. The player in me says that there's no contest there. But I could suspend disbelief for the sake of the story. That's just me though. But yeah, welcome. Is that Sonic? Or is that Stitch? Oh, it is Sonic. I thought it was Stitch for a second. Oh well. Here we go. Moving on to the next chapter. So, you know what's happening. Yay! Yay! Moving on to the next episode. So, for that transition thing, in between the, what's it called? Chapters. It feels weird for me just to sit and pause. I need a sound effect that I need to play. Let me find a sound effect. Oh, I have a Till Wrecker sound effect. That's probably not an appropriate sound effect. Let's see if I can find a different one. You just Google a sound effect. What's a cool sound effect? YouTube, right? YouTube has sound effects. Sparkling star sound effect, right? That sounds good. That's 5 minutes of stuff. How about this one? What's this? That's way too quiet though. And it's too long. Let's find something. How about this one? Okay, that's... Ugh, that's cheesy. Not this. That could work. That could work. Let's do that. Let's do that. Sounds good. All right, cool. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Next chapter, chapter 86. There is value in silence. It has taken her many years to understand this, to embody it, to utilize this. It does not take her as many years as you would have guessed. She learned this before she became a Tenno. She embodied it as she learned to become an operator. And she utilized this as she turned on the people she once was a part of and chose the Tenno called Alpha over them. Silence is too often associated with emptiness. The silence of a hallway is its vacancy. The silence of space is the vast and unoccupied distance between stars and planetary bodies. The silence in a Dak or a Tenno is the silence of an object at rest. The silence in a person is a lack of reaction, a lack of substance. Untrue. She, who has now become the Empress, sits in silence, and she is not empty. Did she and the Alpha not pass years in silence? Did they spend years as Oberon and Saren on this planet that they have claimed as home in communion with each other without a single word spoken? Warframes have no mouths to speak with, but there are other things for conversing. The Empress sits on the snowy slopes of Jupiter, snow and wind lightly moving her hair as she watches the corpus move below her. Her breath lightly fogs in front of her. She can feel it against her lips, but not hear it, and she tastes the moisture of it before the wind blows it away again. Her dragon Nikana is long and familiar in her lap as she slowly places her hands on the scabbard and hilt. She does not move. She sits. She watches. She waits. Soon, but not yet. The time will come and she will know it. The time has never failed to come. She is the Empress. She is, as always, herself and herself only. There were numbers assigned to her. She does not remember them. The call sign of the Empress was given to her. She does not remember who gave it to her or when. It does not matter. She happens to like it, and she permits it to continue. She desires an opening, and so one will come, because she has already begun to carve it out for herself. The Empress was not on that ship because she wanted to be, or because she was supposed to be. The Dak she remembered was her sister, was not someone she was close to. The Empress liked her well enough, respected her and her talents, but she was not close to her. If there was closeness, it came later. If there was closeness, it came as the Daks died for her. She had a brother she loved. She respected him. She adored him. And the night before the Zaraman was to make its jump, he took her to their sister and told the Daks to take her on that ship. There was an argument. To leave was to never see the golden halls of the Orokin again. To stay was to die. She loved her brother, and so did the Daks. The time had come to leave. The time had come to escape. The Empress sits on the slopes of Jupiter and watches and waits. Her sister, the Daks, once told her, "Fortune favors the bold," and then, "The bold need no fortune," and then she died. Her brother, the Sectarius, once told her, "It is the snake that devours the snake that becomes the dragon," and then, "In death, sacrifice," and then he died. She stands, one fluid motion she remembers from her Dax's sister, and watches down the slope as the corpus begin to frenzy, like ants, like insects, like pests that pick over the decaying corpse of something long dead and gone, something past their understanding, something beyond their concept of glory. She does not know who she finds more distasteful, the corpus or the Grineer. Vestigial remnants of something once great and terrible, now pathetic and miserable. The Empress is a product of fortune, and as such she does not need it. She creates it. She takes one step forward and feels the wind push her hair back as she plunges off the slope. Then her Warframe envelops her, and she skids down the snow and ice and stone as she sees the signature of the Alpha's power radiating out and culling corpus, herding and gathering them for her slaughter. She raises a hand, toxin gathered and ready, and she casts out. Silence. No screams. The Alpha waits, his Warframe standing next to a crushed Bursa. He stands, solid and sure against the wind, like it isn't even there, and his energy slowly pulses out from him in waves that silence everything around them, slowly solidifying and stupefying. He watches and is silent. When she is done, she steps out of Saren once more and goes to join him. She stands so close that she can count the faint freckles on his cheeks. She reaches up and touches them. He didn't have these before. It must be all that Cetus sun. Snow has gathered on his eyelashes. When he blinks so slowly, she watches a few small white specks shift and fall. She moves her hand to brush them off his eyes, and he holds still for her to do it. His hands rest on her waist, and as she brushes snow off of him, some of it caught in his diadem, his hair too, and when she's done, he opens his eyes again and steps back, Oberon again. She steps back too, now Saren. There is no need to rush. Silence is a slow creature. The walk together, Warframe's hands linked to extraction, and he walks her to her ship's extraction unit and waits for her Warframe to be locked in before going to his own. There is so much in silence. It is an imagined feeling, but Saren's hand tingles with warmth that does not fade, like the warm sun of earth in her palm. They are going home. I tried. You're only able to be here for about 30 minutes. All right. Have a good one. Thank you for stopping by. Hope that the rest of your evening is a nice one. And yeah, I'll see you around. I will see you around. Thanks for stopping by. All that jazz. All right. Next chapter then. Seas Who Could Sing So Deep and Strong by heartslogos. Chapter 87. Judge gets a hail Sorry, I thought I misread that. I didn't. Judge gets a hail frequency from Punk about 30 minutes into painting Corey's toenails a bright green to match her nidus. He's secretly relieved by it, because Corey's amount of investment in matching nidus is worrisome for his future rendezvous with Corey on missions. Corey only goes in for matching nails and accessories when she's serious about her Warframe. She's already changed her Jin's colors, and she's been messing around with her helmet's genetics to create new skin patterns. Corey also had Ordis redo her favorite guns and swords. Judge is very concerned that his future will be nidus, and his pulsating, writhing body parts that chew on things. But he knows that he'd still be happy to see her. He'd still want to be around her and be very, very happy and relieved that she's around. Nidus's maggots and larvae could be chewing on him, and he'd just be glad that she's there. He loves her. He loves her. He loves her.
Hey, you and Persephone busy with something?
Punk asks as soon as Skyla patches him through. Corey glances up from the video screen Skyla's projected for her and raises a single pink eyebrow. Judge shrugs and carefully applies polish to her left pinky toe. Judge isn't sure where she got this nail polish. Maybe through that same Tenno underground network that gets them clothes that aren't their transference suits and other daily necessities, but the bottle is very small and he's nervous to waste it. According to Corey, he's got the steadier hands between the two of them. Judge would disagree, seeing as Corey's preferred weapon is a sniper rifle with a maximum of 2 bullets that she uses with generous aplomb to headshot dozens of corpus without drawing any attention.
No, why?
Judge replies. Judge was actually working on trying to figure out a schematic on one of the MOAs he'd stolen from a Corpus facility, but he must have been getting too into it because Corey punched him between the shoulders and dragged him back to his room to do her nails. There was also a nap in between, and Judge's eyes feel much, much better, and for some reason he's also thinking a lot clearer too. He swears he couldn't have been at it for too long. He'd have fallen asleep at the table if he was. If he was still awake, he must have been going at it for under 6 hours. 7? 8?
I've been trying to hail Persephone, but I wasn't getting anything, so I thought maybe y'all were in a drop,
Punk replies. I guess she went to do something without you. Anyway, I've got me a situation and I could use a hand. A pair of them, actually. Judge groans, remembering his first encounter with Sheik all those years ago.
Will anyone ever let that go?
Pair of hands. It was hilarious and awkward, Punk says. Meet me up around Kepler. My orbiter is around there. Just have your extraction unit dock at mine.
All right, see you.
Judge says and cuts the line, looking up at Corey, who's gone back to watching her video stream.
Punk needs help.
Who? Judge rolls his eyes. Corey's latest tactic in trying very hard not to make friends is to pretend she doesn't know their names. There was something going on about 4 or 5 night cycles ago, in which Punk There was something going on about 4 or 5 night cycles ago, in which Punk accidentally punched her in the head and sent her falling off a waterfall. She's understandably very annoyed by it, and she hasn't acknowledged Punk's existence in her life since. You shouldn't talk to strangers, Corey continues, inspecting her toes and carefully swinging her feet off of his lap and onto the long cushioned seat she's made herself comfortable on. Her stream display swings with her because Skyla is very good to her. Corey waves her hand. Don't get held hostage by the complete stranger.
Right, Judge says. You sure you don't want to come?
I don't talk to strangers, Corey says firmly, eyes fixed to the screen in front of her. Bye. Maybe there was something to Corey's words after all, because Punk's problem takes up almost 6 hours to fix, and by the time they're judged... Let me start that over. Maybe there was something to Corey's words after all, because Punk's problem takes up almost 6 hours to fix, and by the time they're done, Judge wants to wring the taller Tenno's neck while grinding out his name between his teeth. Jude, Judge says as carefully and politely as he can.
Are we done?
Punk claps Judge on the shoulder, beaming.
Yeah, looking good, buddy. Thanks for that.
Punk's cephalon shines suddenly, and Punk's head swings around towards his navigation console.
Just in time. Kuva flood. Hey, you want to come grab some Kuva with me?
Judge wants to go back to his ship, put his head down next to Corey's hand or hip or foot or whatever is closest, and with enough room, and complain loudly and at length about Punk, and then maybe go to sleep for a bit.
No thank you,
Judge says. Punk shrugs.
Suit yourself. Maybe your girl's done with whatever it is she was doing. I'll ask her if she wants to come.
Judge almost tells Punk that Corey's ignoring him, but Punk's already sending a message to her.
Hey, Persephone, picking up Kuva signatures around Ceres. You in?
Judge blinks himself awake and stares at the sight of Punk's head when Corey responds, through her scrambler, of course. Meet you at Nuovo. Bring Ember. Corey's scrambled voice responds immediately, succinctly, and even pleasantly before the line cuts. Judge gapes as Punk turns around, grinning.
All right, Kuva time. You sure you don't want to come? I mean, I know you don't drink the stuff, but it's fun getting it. Persephone and I have a total blast. It's like a riot. I mean, technically, yeah, it's kind of a riot, and things do explode. She's really good at hitting explosives. Did you know that? Does she have some kind of sense for where those are or something? I'm going back to my ship,
Judge says, more to himself than anything. Maybe this is all a strange dream.
Have fun, I guess.
Yay. Dun 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 dun. Hope you guys are doing well. I'll just move on to the next chapter since it looks like chat's pretty quiet. All right. Seas Who Could Sing So Deep and Strong by heartslogos. Chapter 88. Judge needs to pee. He needs to pee, and he needs to crack his neck, and he feels a desperate need to stretch from his hunched over position. Funny how he could be slouched over blueprints and screens like this for literal hours on his own and never notice, but he's only been like this for maybe 30 minutes and his body is begging him to move. But he can't. Corey mumbles softly in her sleep, and he can feel her shift a little as her cheek nuzzles against his shoulders, well and truly deep asleep. If Judge moves, he'll wake her up. He cannot wake her up. This might never happen to him again, and if he betrays her trust by moving now, she might never give him another chance again. Judge may be overthinking this entirely, but for him, this is a moment of utmost importance. They've slept side by side and on the decks of their orbiters and even back to back, huddled together in their rooms. But this is an entirely different beast, and Judge is going to savor this moment of trust and quiet and peace. Corey is like a little gentle sun, radiating heat against his back. Judge normally keeps his ship running cool. Corey complains frigid at times, but it helps his electronics keep cool, and it keeps him awake. Judge's body wants to relax, and his eyes want to droop as Corey's warmth spreads over his back and shoulders and through his suit. Skyla gently chimes, "Operator, a message from Tenno Sheik."
Can you take a message?
Judge whispers, tensing when he feels Corey shift at his back. It feels like she's about to slide off, but Corey somehow corrects herself. Skyla goes quiet, and Judge assumes that she's talking with Sheik. Skyla nervously starts to stutter and glitch, quietly though, and Judge waits for her to sort herself out. "Apologies, Operator," Skyla manages to get out. "Tenno Sheik is insistent on a personal message to you. She says it's an emergency."
All right, but keep her volume low, okay?
Judge says.
It's okay, Skyla. Thank you.
Sheik's face, scrunched up and irritated, appears in a hollow screen in front of Judge's face a moment later. "We've lost Punk," Sheik says. "Haven't heard from him in about a week, and the last person who saw him was the Alpha. I think the idiot's been captured by Grenier."
What?
"He dragged Alpha off Earth for a Kuva run, and Alpha, being Alpha, made his way through the entire thing and didn't realize Punk got trashed because the idiot ran off and left Alpha alone. So of course Alpha couldn't tell if Punk was in trouble or not." Sheik pauses and lets out a tired sigh. "I'm not even mad at Alpha. It's not even his fault. The poor guy sounds so upset about it. Punk's the dumb idiot who ran off and dropped out of Alpha's radar. Anyway, Punk was last seen around Sedna, and I have a bad feeling he's about to be dropped in the middle of a fame match without much backup, and probably garbage equipment. The Empress and I are going to try to find him. You in?"
Right now?
Judge asks. "Yes, Hades, right now. He has a scheduled Lunaro match tonight, and I've been putting money on this match for the past 2 months. I'm not losing out because he's a no-show. Is your girl with you? Can you ask her to come?"
She's here, Judge says, but she's asleep, is the thing.
Sheik's face is inscrutable for a moment before she grins wide and mischievous. "So you're busy?"
A little,
Judge admits. "Forget I asked. Don't worry about it." Sheik winks. "I think the Empress and I can bail Punk out just fine. You spend some more time with your girl. Tell her I called and that we need to meet up soon when she wakes up." Corey's leaning heavily on her chin, eyes drooping.
Okay, so what's next?
Judge yawns, rubbing the heel of his palm against his eyes as he flicks through the list of things he needs to assemble some new gear.
All right, I still need argon. We need to go back to the void.
Corey groans softly, eyes squeezing closed as she scrubs her hands over her face and through her hair.
Judge, we spent literal days in the void, and all we have for it is a mountain of modules.
Corey gestures towards a corner of his orbiter that's been filled with a pile of control modules that Judge doesn't need. He offered them to Corey, but then he remembered that Corey has dozens upon dozens of control modules herself. He'll pass them off to Sheik later, but right now he needs argon and he needs a lot of it. Forma, new drones to replace some of his old ones, new focus lenses, Exilus adapters, specters. He also wanted to start work on a hydroid. He needs at least 20 argon crystals. At least. This is the last time that he puts off building supplies. He's never letting himself run so low again.
This is worse than my alloy run on Ceres,
Corey groans. Her gin makes a low burbling noise as it works hard to support Corey's weight. I can't believe I'm saying this, but you need to get punk and chic.
I can't believe I'm hearing you say that.
Corey drags her hand down her face, looking deeply peeved and defeated. I'll bring my Necros. Get Chic to bring her Equinox. Get Punk to bring Ember. You go in with your Trinity. We'll go in, and between the two of us, I can probably get a good amount of stuff with Necros' desecration. You use your Trinity to keep our energy up. I'd say Chic goes in with Trinity, but her Equinox deals better damage than your Inaros.
Are you sure?
Judge says.
They'll be chatty and enthusiastic.
I'll keep it together, but you better tell me the second you get enough Argon, Corey says, and then I am gone.
Got it,
Judge says.
I'll call them. You sleep and then switch to your Necros. Start again in 30.
How farming strats have changed over the years. How they have changed. Man, I remember back in the olden days when the strats were completely different. Or maybe they're not hardcore farming. Maybe they're just casually in character, you know? What is min-maxing? Chapter 89. Judge turns to grab a few of Corey's unused blue Ayatan stars and freezes. His hand is cast in shadow. He looks up, and he looks into the silent face of a very tall, very muscular, though not as broad as Midas and not as lanky as Isha, but somewhere in the dangerous middle, black Kubro staring at him. Its breathing is very quiet, and it holds very still, legs straight, ears at attention, and body primed for action. Judge stares at it. It stares back.
Corey?
Judge whispers, and ear flicks. What? Corey yells from her helmet chamber, where she's been trying to wrestle some flesh chunks out for investigation for the past 30 or so minutes. Helmuth has been hissing and protesting and calling Corey everything from demon to soulless shade. Corey's retaliation was to let Joy and Spooky go wild in there, chewing and clawing on all the flesh and living parts they could find. The Kubro takes a soft step forward, stretching its head out towards Judge, ears flicking back and lip curling back. Judge's eyes widen.
Corey!
What? Corey yells back, and the Kubro moves forward, feet soft and ears black and huge. Judge quickly steps back, but ends up with his back to her orbiter wall as the dog looms over him, so close he can feel the heat of the Kubro's silent exhaling. Just as Judge is considering using his Void Dash to escape the Kubro's head... Just as Judge is considering using his Void Dash to escape, the Kubro's head pushes forward and thumps against the center of his chest, large head pushing and rubbing against his chest and pushing the air out of his lungs with force. With its head bowed like this, Judge can see the dog's tail wagging furiously. Judge tentatively raises his hands and sinks his fingers into its fur and starts scratching.
Good Kubro?
Oh, you've met Alpha, Corey says, voice sounding much closer.
What? Yeah? Wait, what?
Judge blinks, confused. My new Kubro, Corey says. I named him Alpha. Big, ominous, gentle, also likes to appear without any warning and stands perfectly still for hours on end. Alpha.
That's confusing,
Judge says as the black Kubro starts to turn, rubbing his neck against Judge's chest like he's a purring cat, arching into Judge's hands.
Is that your second companion named after one of our fellow Tenno? I'm starting to think you're warming up to people, Corey.
Corey scowls, and Judge notices that she's holding her arms up and they're coated in something shimmering and possibly blood? She's also got some of it splattered on her face. Third, Corey says. It sounds like she's admitting something on threat of torture. Impressive, because Judge is pretty sure Corey wouldn't crack for anything, least of all him asking nicely.
Third?
I didn't think I'd ever really meet the Empress, so it's not exactly like I named her that way on purpose. She just happened to remind me of her being all powerful and stuff, Corey explains defensively, glancing towards the helmet charger that's calmly lying down on the ramp going up towards Corey's navigation console, chewing on something trapped in her mandibles.
All right, fair. That's one,
Judge says.
Who's the second one?
Corey jerks her head towards the helmet room, where he can still hear Helmuth hissing through the open doors. Joy.
What?
Judge doesn't know anyone named Joy. And Judge knows everyone Corey knows, pretty much. Unless there's someone in the Red Veil named Joy, but Corey doesn't even like most of the people in the Red Veil that much, so she wouldn't have named her cat after one. Sheik's real name is Joy. Obviously, this is a coincidence and not on purpose, as Joy the cat precedes me knowing Joy the Tenno. But it is admittedly very uncanny. Joy is pink, Sheik is pink. They have that one smile with the teeth. They enjoy antagonizing things that they probably shouldn't, and then having someone else take care of the resulting mess. Usually someone dumb and big, like Punk or Isha. Both of them are affectionate. Corey wrinkles her nose.
Huh,
Judge says, focusing his attention back on the huge Kubro. He swears that the dog is purring.
Does Alpha the Tenno know about Alpha the Kubro? What kind is he anyway?
Hurras, Corey answers, and yes.
Wait, hurras? Judge frowns. You already have. Did you consign Hala?
Corey gives Judge a flat and annoyed look.
How could you?
Judge exclaims.
She was your first Kubro. She was your only Kubro for ages.
For Void's sake, Judge. Corey rolls her eyes. I didn't consign her. She's playing with Isha and Hajira in the transference chamber. They've got a Moa leg they're fighting over for the past week. I expect that thing to be broken by tomorrow, and I'll have to bring them a bursa plate or something.
But you only ever have one of everything,
Judge says.
And the only Kubro breed you're missing is Chessa.
I know, Corey says. This is the exception. It is neither pragmatic nor efficient in any sense, and it is everything sentimental. Corey grimaces, like the word itself leaves a residue on her tongue. But, Corey says, for this I permit it. Everyone else, if this happens again, consignment instantly. No questions, no hesitation. Are you done with the questions? Can I go back to harvesting flesh parts from the Helmuth chamber? Yes? Good. Keep Alpha entertained. He's still a puppy, so his attention span isn't very good. Isha and Hajira roughhouse too much for him to play with them, though. Judge gapes.
You call this a puppy?
The Kubro is taller than he is. He might be taller than Midas. Yes, Judge, he's like a week old, ignoring that I had him matured early. Corey rolls her eyes, turning around and heading back towards the helmet room. Just pet him and let him nap on your leg or something. I don't know, I'm busy. Consider it payment for the stars you are going to take. Yay. Gotta admit, I do still have my original Kubro as well. Like the very first Kubro I ever bred, like I still got him in my what's it called? Inventory. Incubator? Maybe? Is that what you store him in the no, you don't store him in the incubator. You store him in the pet segment inventory. He's in my inventory. I don't take him out very often because I don't really need that particular breed. What kind of breed is he anyway? I don't remember. Not Harass. It's Sunika probably. I don't know. It's a breed that I never use, so sadly I never get a chance to use him. But I do still have him, and I love him to pieces. Just like how Corey is very sentimentally attached to this Kubro that is a duplicate. Her original Kubro. Never mind. Anyway, let's keep reading. Chapter 90. Judge leans against the cooling metal of a Grineer ship that they finished shooting down onto the plains. Oh. Thanks, Macaulay Master. I mean, it's my first puppy. I spent like 20 minutes trying to come up with the perfect name for him. I was very proud of it. And he was a lotus, which I had no clue was rare. But yeah, it's rare. So, yeah. Orkyra. I still have Orkyra. He's a pretty doggo. Anyway, chapter 90 for real. Chapter 90. Judge leans against the cooling metal of a Grineer ship that they finished shooting down onto the plains. Corey's sitting on one end of the crushed sections of it, for once in the flesh instead of in her warframe. She's got her old hood on, zipped all the way up and hiding her face, but she's here physically, and Judge counts that as a step in a direction. Whether it's a good or bad one, he can't say. He can't determine these things for her, but it feels like a step in a general direction that isn't backwards. Corey's got one foot propped up on some metal that she molded with her void energy, and she's leaning back into a huge dent, looking up at the fractured moon and playing with a rock that Isha brought her.
We should probably go help them,
Judge says, referring to the ongoing battle in the valley near the water that they've been watching from the top of the slope. Nah, Corey says. They've got this.
It'd be fun, Judge says. A real challenge.
Don't feel like it.
You'd get to show off how much better you are at stuff.
I already know I'm better. I don't need to show it off, Corey replies. Besides, the Alpha is down there.
Don't you want to help him?
He doesn't need it, Corey says, tossing her rock up into the air and blasting it with a small burst of bright gold energy. Not enough to break, just enough to keep it in the air. Besides, this is Pug's punishment, not mine. He's the one who pissed the Empress off, not me. I did my job. Punk had lost an interception point for all of 3 minutes because he'd been swarmed by 7 Bursa. Judge doesn't really think he's at fault here, but the point remains that the Empress was displeased by having lost an interception point, and her response, of course, was to attempt to strengthen her perceived weakest link.
He's really good at Lunaro and Rathum, Judge says, and judgment cycles. I mean, he's a professional sports player. Why do you think he's so...
mediocre? Subpar? Average? Passable, but only just?
Unsteady,
Judge says. It's the kindest word he can think of, really.
I mean, he's fine in all of those other things. I don't see why he'd be bad at actual missions.
Because they're actual missions. Lunaro is a game.
Rathum isn't, Judge says. Well, sort of. Not really.
It's a controlled environment, Corey says. Speaking of control, Midas is about to attack some sentients. Maybe go check on him. Judge turns around, already surrounding himself in the warmth of Anaros as he searches the grass for where he last saw Midas, chasing things, and starts running after his dog when he sees the telltale glow of sentient lights.
Are you going to help?
Judge asks through their comms. Aye, you've already got it handled, Corey replies. Careful, ghoul nests. If you step on some, they'll... Corey pauses like she's listening to something, and then she lets out a sharp whistle. Judge hears Isha bark in the distance as he starts shooting at sentients.
What?
Ortis sent me an alert, Corey replies. He's found some Grineer caches. I'm going to loot them. I'll meet you later. Whoops. Corey turns when she hears Punk groaning, and she watches the large Atlas drag himself out of the water. Corey waits for the larger Warframe to finish climbing out of the water duct, keeping an ear out for any patrols that might be coming. She's hidden the bodies of the 2 guards she found when she got up here pretty well, but one can never be sure. I feel like I went 20 rounds with a juggernaut. Is this age? Is this my age catching up to me? No, it was you being blasted into a turbine catching up to you. You were literally blasted into a turbine, Corey replies, and you got stuck there with some mines. Maybe next time don't hang around next to the underwater vent. You could have pointed out that it was there sooner, or helped me instead of just leaving me to it, the other Tenno whines, standing up, stretching, and drawing his gun from its holster. All right, where are we going from here? Sheik and Hades have already hit data point Alpha, Corey says. Data point Beta should be ahead. We'll have to double back here and go to where we originally split up with Sheik and Hades to point Charlie. But we're closer to Charlie anyway, so we'll probably reach it at the same time. She's not sure why they split up like this, but they have, and if she loses Punk now, she'll probably get alarms and no data, and Corey isn't going to meet up with Judge at Data Point Charlie and tell him she didn't get the data he wanted just because of Punk.
Alright, let's get this over with. I hate Neptune, Punk says. Sharks and mines and all this water. It's like really annoying to move in.
But you won't get struck by lightning, Corey points out. The sharks are okay.
Only you and the Alpha think that. Only you and the Alpha think that. Hades told me about your theory that the sharks are just water-based dogs. They aren't. They are completely different, and I don't know why people think I'm the weirdest out of all of us. You think that sharks and dogs are related is way weirder than anything I've ever done or said or even thought to myself in private, Punk replies. Do you have enough zappers?
Yes, Corey replies, checking her Rubico and double-checking the scope for water damage. You go first. I'll guide us in. Move on my signal.
Done deal, Punk says. Do we know what kind of data we're collecting?
Hades said it was a possible lead on a new ghoul experiment being done between Rygor and Heck, Corey replies. Possibly some sort of enhancement that would repair some of their DNA and increase their life expectancy. Or maybe some sort of gene repair. I'm not certain on the specifics. You can ask him about it.
Yay. Alright. I'm really bad with this new alert. New sound ding thing. I gotta get my old alert back for next stream. Anyway, doggos are the best. I agree wholeheartedly. I've never owned a doggo. I'm very sad. I've owned kitty cats, but not doggos. Well, IRL, I mean. It's too late for me now. But in game, I love the doggos, all the doggos. Joel, Guardian of Ghost, hello. Welcome to the stream. Hey, how you doing? We are doing the book reading with bedtime story, all that good stuff. Got new background music. It's all crackly, fired logs. Can you guys hear it okay? Is it too loud? Is it too soft? Is it okay? I never know. Anyway. I don't know what I'm doing. My mouth is not working. How long has the stuff been going on? Check all the stuff. All right, we are good. Let's move on to the next chapter. Chapter 91. The doors to the data vault hiss open, and Judge glances back towards his Inaros. The Warframe remains still and unperturbed by the opening of the doors. Judge squints and faintly sees Corey's outline in the void before she drops back into the world with a faint glimmering gust of gold. I've got Grenier shooting up my Umbra 2 floors down, Corey says, walking up to him, amp folded back along her arm. I think he's enjoying himself. Corey pauses, tilting her head. Judge can see the faintest glow of gold in her pupils, like embers, as she focuses on her bond with her Warframe. Yeah, he's having fun. I haven't found anything interesting. You? Judge shakes his head, turning back to the screens in front of him. Nothing I didn't already know. Is it a good idea to leave Umbra alone? If Umbra could almost kill me, I don't see why he'd have any problem fighting some tube men, Corey sneers. I mean, they're not even that much of a challenge for me when I'm using a dull blade and a particularly unstable frame, like Vauban. Judge refrains from saying anything about Corey and her Vauban. He's surprised that she still has the frame, honestly. He thought that she would have disassembled it as soon as she got back from the Corpus holding cells. But here they are, almost a full year and a half later, and she's still got Vauban in storage. Unused, unwanted, and, in Corey's arsenal, unnecessary. That said, Corey also isn't a quitter. Once she starts something, she won't stop, so he knows she'll eventually figure out a way to use Vauban to her own personal sensibilities. Whether that's any time this century or not is the question. Corey leans against the edge of the console, arms crossed over her chest as she watches Judge type and scroll through data files, trying to parse out anything new or particularly interesting. You can go if you're bored, Judge says. This might take a while. Umbra's got this, Corey says. I'd be more bored having to deal with the Grenier.
Corey's shoulders suddenly tense and her head whips around. Dang, patrols. Close out and hide. He closes out all the files he was on, noting which ones to return to if he gets the chance, and looks around.
Where are you going to hide? If you call Umbra, you'll definitely trip alarms. There's nowhere for you to hide,
Judge hisses. Don't worry about me. Get to your sentinel, Corey hisses. Judge immediately returns to Inaros, his shade activating and casting invisibility on him and his Warframe. His vision reorients in time for him to watch the Grineer guards walk past one of the tinted windows towards the door.
Corey,
Judge hisses through their comms. Corey looks around before going to a storage locker Judge had opened when he first came in and climbs inside, pulling it shut just as the Grineer patrol enters the vault. Judge watches them walk past the locker Corey's hidden herself in. He knows that they can't hear him, but they might hear her, and that makes him hold his breath. Inaros tenses, and it feels like stone grinding together to create faint dust like grit as he stares at the Grineer. One of the Grineer leans against the locker next to Corey's as he talks to his patrol partner, and Judge feels his heart in his throat. The two continue talking to each other, and Judge is so anxious that he can't even focus enough to translate what they're saying. The entire time they're talking, Judge swears he can feel the nova in him, the energy, the anxiety, the building and roiling mass of energy that demands an outlet to move and release and strike, shaking him inside and out and threatening to blow his cover, Corey's cover. He's almost startled into accidentally firing his gun when one of the Grineer's radios goes off with a burst of static, gunshots, and yelling. Probably for assistance dealing with Corey's Umbra, based on the angry "Tenno Scoom" he can hear. The Grineer respond back to the requests for help, or the cursing, with their own curses, brandishing their weapons. The guards mutter to each other, standing in front of the control console, looking around one last time, before running towards the exit on the opposite side of the room to join the rest of their people in fighting off Corey's enthusiastic Umbra. Judge waits until he can't hear the sound of their feet on metal, and then a few good breaths after that. He steps out of his Inaros as his shade releases its cloaking, letting out a tired whirring noise as it floats downwards to gently rest on his Inaros' shoulder.
Good job,
Judge says to it. Shade's optic camera flashes a few times in response.
Corey?
Corey kicks the locker open, and she looks incredibly irritated, half crammed onto one of the shelves and contorted around to fit in the cylindrical half-doorway. I bet they knew I was here and were standing there just to piss me off, Corey says, clambering out of the locker and stretching. Take all of their data and put a virus in to make their computers play nothing but old clips of Punk beating them in Rathum.
As hilarious as that would be,
Judge says, taking his place in front of the console again.
I'm trying to make it look like I'm not here, so no on that. Maybe next time.
Corey lets out a long sigh. All right, fine. She twists her torso around, stretching to one side and then the other. But I want to leave something nasty for them here anyway. Not here in the data vault. Maybe at their reactor core? Judge hums.
Good idea. If we sabotage their reactor, they probably won't think to check their data for external influences. You go on ahead and do that. I'll meet up with you after I finish checking some of these files and sending them to Skyla for analysis.
I'm going to set the place on fire, Corey says, just so you know.
Of course you are, Judge says. I'm looking forward to it. Hey, Corey?
Yes, Corey asks, pausing as she flicks her amp out and into firing position.
Save me a few Grineer?
Corey grins. Better hurry then.
The fool will rush in,
Judge answers with a smile of his own,
chasing spring as one does.
Next chapter. And there we go. Chapter 92. Corey wakes to the sound of something familiar, something that pulls at something deep in the recesses of her mind. Not like a new memory, an old memory being made new again and being made fresh with its unfamiliarity, resurfacing and coming over her like a wave that she needs to brace for. This is not a memory. This is something pulling at a memory. There is a difference. Corey wakes, the heat of one of her numerous companions steadily breathing against her back, Based on the size and lack of snoring, she's going to guess it's either Valencia or Alpha. And her Jinn cuddled up against her stomach and chest, its fleshy body warm against the palm of her hand, as she absently runs her thumb over one of its ridges. She looks around, blearily looking for the source of this sound, and she sees Umbra sitting next to the soma cord, hand raised over it. Umbra's back is to her as he quietly interfaces with the machine. She begins to register the actual sound now, a woman's voice, singing. Not words, just sound. Slow, simple. She knows what comes next. A pause. A chorus. Her throat and chest close, and she croaks out, "Stop!" The sound is swallowed by the chorus of voices, children's voices, repeating back the notes. Memories shake inside of her, a rumbling and a clattering that stirs up the dark and the dirt, and the forgotten and the lost, and the willingly consigned, obscuring everything else as she quickly untangles herself from her sentinel, kubro, and blanket. The orbiter floor is cold beneath her knees and palms as she drags herself out of bed, sheets tangled around her ankles, pinned by her heavy dog, Alpha based on the collar, and she grunts when she's pulled back by his weight. "Stop," Corey repeats, as the voices wash over her, high and young and gentle, and so very unaware of what they are about to become. The memories rise around her, pulling her down and into them. Is the orbiter floor cold, or is it just her hands? Margulis. Would-be Mother Margulis, mother of all Tenno, mother of every single child on that blasted ship. Memories. Margulis and her kindness, Margulis and her empathy, Margulis and her courage, Margulis and the jade light. Margulis's outrage, her fear, her disgust. Margulis and her smiling face even after she was blinded. Margulis, it is not your fault, after they found out that she was condemned. The song, the books, the stories, the comfort that never quite reached her, but the sentiment and the effort did. Quarry never believed in the things Margulis told them, that they were gifted, that they were alive for a reason, that they are children and Orican and should be protected and held precious, that they weren't monsters or tools, or things to be experimented and studied and built upon. Quarry didn't believe it when they were muzzled and kept in chains and prisons. But Quarry believed in Margulis's intent, and she appreciated it. The kindness, the attempt to make them people instead of things again. Quarry appreciated it, even if it was not for her. "Stop," Quarry repeats, as the song begins to crest, to evolve, to complicate and change. Umbra hears her now, or maybe decides to pay attention to her, and turns over his shoulder. Quarry reaches out and gets her fingers around the tail end of his ragged scarf, clenching the black material in her fist. "Stop," she repeats. Umbra flicks his wrist, and the song changes to an ambient thing that fades from her attention as she lies on the floor, half tangled in bedsheets, fist clenched around Umbra's scarf. Umbra's hand moves over her, running finger in her hair. The texture of his hands catches on her hair a little. Quarry closes her eyes. Alpha, awake now, quietly chuffs. She doesn't hear him move. He really does live up to his namesake, but she feels it when he noses at her side and then places a paw on her back, gently nudging her. "I miss her, because I feel sorry for her," Quarry tells Umbra. Umbra, who has known her mind as she knows his. Umbra, who she cannot lie to. Umbra, who is a part of her soul and therefore can tolerate no lies. Every Warframe she has been in, every single body she has piloted, all of them become part of her and she a part of them. Empty slates that bear the faintest ghosts of her hand. "She was not my mother," Quarry says, as Umbra untangles her from her bedsheet and helps her stand up. "But she wanted to be, for all of us, and I can appreciate that. And then they took her away for it. They took her away from the ones that did need her, that did rely on her, that did want the connection she offered." Quarry sits back down on her bed, chin immediately slotting itself into place in her lap like a very fleshy toy, and Alpha lies back down along her side, a quiet and warm bar of heat. Umbra kneels next to her, silent. She reaches over and puts her hand on his shoulder, and she feels the warmth of transference between them. She imagines a single gold palm print on his shoulder as energy flows from her to him. There is a sea of empty calmness and the faintest touch of sympathy. "What were you looking for?" Corey asks. She knows Umbra wanders her ship. Sometimes he just sits in the transference chamber, or he stands on the observation deck and just looks out into the darkness of space. She hasn't really come across him actively doing anything, not like today. She hears the sound of drums, the sound and beat of them familiar, the ceremonial drums for summoning the guardians, the Dax, the Tenno. She wonders if he misses the familiarity, the formality of being summoned, the drums and then the war. "Ordis," Corey says, "the drums." "Of course, operator," Ordis replies, instant and clear, and the soma cord twitches once again. Umbra's chin tilts up as he refocuses on the device, and his posture seems to relax just a little bit. Corey lets her hand fall from his shoulder, and he turns to look at her. "It's okay," Corey says. "You don't need permission to remember the things that hurt you." Umbra shakes his head just a little after a pause. He holds his hand out and Corey takes it. She feels the wash of a faint and lingering emotion. Pride. Corey understands this too. "You don't need an excuse or permission for that either," Corey says. "You can be proud of what you once were." Umbra's fingers curl around her hand, and he turns back towards the soma cord. Corey slowly lies down and goes back to sleep. I love this chapter. It's such a lovely look into Umbra and the Tenno and Margulis. Like, first off, Umbra's awesome. And like the fact that he's just browsing the soma cord while she's asleep, looking for the familiar sound of the Orican drums. Like, that's such a, I don't, and because he takes pride in what he used to be. Like, Umbra's such a wholesome dad. He's such a wholesome dad. I love him. Anyway, that's an interesting take, that the second dream music, that the children's chorus is the Zaraman kids before they became Tenno. Like, I never thought of it like that before this. But I like it. Headcanon accepted. Chapter 93. I was on Punk's ship. Oh, whoops. No, this is just... wrong voice.
I was on Punk's ship, Judge says. We had a sleepover. It was an experience. You should come next time.
Corey raises one eyebrow very slowly and pointedly turns her back to him, going back to whatever she's doing with her newest sword.
Alpha brought food. It was really good,
Judge says. It's a poor attempt to appeal to Corey's narrow interests of food and people who aren't punk. Corey continues to ignore him.
We watched data clips.
What kind of data clips? Corey asks, because she already knows.
Sports,
Judge answers. Corey doesn't dignify that with a response at all. She just holds her new sword up to her orbiter's lighting, turning it this way and that before handing it to Umbra. Her Umbra takes the sword and does a few experimental swings with it before handing it back to Corey, who resumes her tinkering.
It was fun. We played games, Judge continues. And you could play with all of Punk's dogs. Alpha and Empress and Cheek brought some of their dogs too.
I feel sorry for that ship Cephalon, Corey says. Tell me, did all of those dogs immediately turn into a giant ring of fur pressed against the Alpha's stick legs?
Sort of,
Judge says, trying to peer around Corey to see what she's doing with the sword.
Some of them are forming a circle around the Empress, so it was like a figure eight, I guess. You'd like his ship. It's full of... stuff?
I barely tolerate your ship enough to step foot in it, Corey replies, and that's only after Skyla and I have done our best to clean out your garbage.
It's not garbage.
You didn't even know you had a dead Norg rotting behind your foundry, Corey retorts. I touched it. It was gross. My hand was stained green. Norgs aren't even green, Judge. Poor Skyla. It was inside of her. Judge grimaces.
In my defense, you touch weird things all the time. Like Alpha's nidus infestation.
That's different, Corey says. And I didn't touch it with my bare hands. I dropped an earring back there, Judge. It landed in that fermenting mess. I had to have Ortis and Skylet taking turns sterilizing it before I felt safe enough to hold it again. Corey pauses what she's doing and points at her ear. I had to get different earrings because otherwise I just have the one and it looks weird. That earring is somewhere on my ship right now, still being sterilized, because I don't trust that I won't lose the ear if I put it on again.
You rip apart infested and then take them home with you, Judge protests. I've seen you play with bits of internal organs. I watched you poke things you've cut in half to see how things move inside.
Again, all different, Corey says, and most of the time I'm bringing parts back for my cat to play with. Anyway, I don't trust what goes on in that ship. What color was the ceiling?
The ceiling?
Yes, what color was the ceiling of his orbiter?
Black?
Not on purpose, is Corey's instant response. Judge blinks, looks at Corey's Umbra as if the Warframe is going to say something, or even side with him. A futile move. Corey's Umbra only has eyes for Corey, and even then that's somewhat delicate ground to be walking on. He turns instead to her Diriga, which lets out a high-pitched and furious sounding screaming screech that sounds like what happens if you play a huge data mass at once at high speed through several tiny speakers. Judge takes this to mean that her Diriga does not particularly care to be included in this conversation.
What do you mean by that?
Judge asks, turning back to Corey's back. When he isn't an Atlas, he's a Chroma. I'm willing to bet it's one of his go-to frames, Corey says, and he's punk.
I need you to lay this out for me as if I was an idiot.
Corey snorts. You're a fool, but you aren't an idiot. You're the detective. Put it together. I bet the rest of his ship was all white and blue and stuff, only his ceiling was black, and not all of it. Judge frowns, biting his lower lip as he thinks back. She's right. It's not a hard guess. Punk's favorite color is blue, and most of his Warframes have some level of white to them. But the black ceiling? Chroma? He was also an Ember during the war, Corey says. Ember, Chroma, black ceiling.
Oh,
Judge frowns.
There is no way he's burned the ceiling of his orbiter.
Chroma, when left to his own devices, will breathe fire because he's bored, Corey says. And Punk already belches out fire and smoke as a regular Tenno. He also burps up some sort of Kuva-scented gas if he's just come off a run.
I don't believe it, Judge says. I did not sleep under an ash-coated burnt ceiling. I was not breathing that in.
Ask Sheik, she'll confirm it, Corey says, waving her hand at him and handing Umber the sword again. This time, Corey uses transference, disappearing in a wash of gold. Umber turns to Judge, and Corey's voice comes from within. And she'll laugh at you for not realizing.
The Empress wouldn't have stepped foot on a ship if it was like that,
Judge continues to protest.
There's no way.
Alpha would because he's polite and nice, Corey says, and the Empress goes where the Alpha goes, no question.
You're making stuff up to mess with me, Judge says. I'm calling Sheik.
You do that, Corey says, Umber's shoulders shrugging as she moves into a simple Narata to test her sword. I'll be here. It is my ship. Judge ignores her, stepping out of the room and heading towards Corey's observation deck as he hails Sheik. Hey, what's up? Sheik answers after a few minutes.
Is Punk's ceiling black on purpose? Judge asks.
Sheik laughs. Judge's stomach drops. Did you just figure that out now? Sheik asks, in between her wheezing as she catches her breath. No, I think it used to be navy once, which isn't that far off, but it's charred now. Don't worry, the air filtration is pretty good. His Cephalon is good at keeping that part maintained. It's just the stains don't come off. He keeps adding new scorch marks, and he just told his Cephalon to leave them rather than waste time on it.
Disgusting.
Judge recoils.
I can't. I'm gross. Why would. That's terrible.
That's Punk. Punk indeed. Good old Punk. What a punk. Chapter 94. I have nothing to say. He has always felt an unnerving sense of constraint in the gold and white halls, long abandoned, long left to the wilderness of space and time of the Oricon. They are hollow, empty. They are uncomfortably vast in their sprawling that defies the physical laws that should define their boundaries and their limits and their very selves. Even when these halls were full of people, servants and soldiers and honored guests and speakers and archivists and others of great renown, even then it has crawled up the shoulders of his soul and dragged its nails down until everything shakes free. The halls are empty, except for those taken over by the neural sentries, and something about them feels hollow too, like just being here, being assimilated like this, has made them false. As though being here has undone the truth of their very selves and made them strange walking fictions that bleed when he cuts them, that yell out in outrage when they see him, that scream as they die, but still far away and fictitious. It leaves a strange and hollow thud in his chest that makes him uncomfortable and raw on the outside. But for her, it is different. So he lets her take a moment to look around. It is not her home. Whatever golden palace she once came from is probably long ravaged by some other Tenno, or perhaps drifting and destroyed and in pieces. But it is close enough that whenever they come here, that she holds her hands out, open just a little, head back, and for a brief moment, relaxed. Relaxed like they are when they're on Earth together. When he sits with her head on his lap and he runs his hands through her long space black hair, fingers brushing against the golden horns of her diadem. Relaxed like the way they are as they stare at the distant stars in the canopy of Earth's forest, leaning against a thick tree trunk, her head resting on his chest, their limbs like vines and roots knotted and woven. Relaxed like the way they are when they're running through golden fields of tall grass in afternoon sun, and the sound of Grineer engines angrily rumbles above them, her laughter in his ears as he mentally counts down to their arcing support landing, and the baying of hounds at their heels. He turns away from her, leaving her to her moment of peaceful memories to check on the others. Punk and Persephone are arguing about something, more like Punk is talking at Persephone and she's ignoring him. Hades is taking in his surroundings, ready to begin. Sheik is petting Punk's Pukubro.
Alpha agrees with me, right?
The words start to rise in him, and his lips almost part to say yes, to whatever it is. He wasn't paying attention. But at the last moment, another voice in his mind hisses for silence, for absolute submission, for complete and total obedience, and his throat closes. His lips remain shut. And the moment for him to respond is lost as Punk continues talking at Persephone, who irritatedly flicks her sword out of its sheath and pointedly walks away. Alpha turns to Empress, and he wants to take his... Alpha turns to Empress, and he wants to take her hand, to open his own hand out like hers is, and reach forward and take hers and tell her, I say nothing. His hand opens and closes around his bow, and his fingers take an arrow as he draws back and fires at a single corrupted lancer. The arrow is silent. The body is silent. The death is unnoticed underneath the sounds of the other Tenno's banter, and their many Kubro and Kavat and sentinels, and the Empress's powerful force of self. He lowers his arm and steps back, letting himself fade from view. He runs his finger over Momo's ear. She flicks her ear back, and with a silent chuff, she makes them both fade from sight and sense entirely. Momo's steps are silent as she trails after him as he goes to check where the corrupted lancer was coming from. The other four are still going back and forth in the background. Empress herself has drifted towards them, letting herself be drawn into the conversation. He pulls one of the daggers from his waist and quickly dispatches a corrupted gunner whose back is turned to him. His knife goes straight down into the throat, and his other arm pins the body to his, holding very still as he waits for the struggling to stop before lowering the body to the ground. Momo glances down at it before looking back up at him. He shrugs, and they both turn around to follow the rest of their group as they enter deeper into the golden halls of what was once living. Perhaps it is still living, but it no longer feels alive. He keeps his bow ready in his hands as he follows behind. Persephone's nidus builds its mutations quickly and is soon covered in graceful curves of armor. Judge's Inaros moves with a trail of sand and devastation. Sheik's Equinox charges between them as Punk's Chroma breathes out streams of fire. And all around them are spores, and around all of them are spores releases toxic... And around all of them are spores releasing... Sorry, messed up. And around all of them are spores releasing clouds of toxic mist. Alpha's arrows find the ones that run. They find the ones that almost make their way in. He finds them. He always does. Alpha is a stone. He is a ground that is walked upon. He is a mountain in the distance. He waits, ever patient for his opportunity. It comes. It always does. It is made and it is taken. Alpha waits, invisible and mostly unnoticed, walking through and around the gaps made by the other Tenno as he dispatches the corrupted enemies that are also missed and unnoticed. His voice tangles in his throat as the others talk through their shared communication frequency, and every time he untangles it, it's too late for him to speak. "It's all right," Empress's voice says in his head, through memory and golden sunlight and lavender moonshine. "It's all right if the moment passes. The moment always comes again. Save it for the next." He tucks the words into the back of his teeth and waits as he follows. Now, a few minutes later, hours, nights, weeks, months later, she's right. The moment will come again. Just like they returned to these golden halls centuries and empires later, the time for their words will come again. He draws his bow and sends an arrow arcing gracefully over Persephone's nidus and the stream of Punk's fire. It lands in the throat of a bombard that Sheik strikes a mere breath later. He feels a brush against his back and turns to see the Empress, Tenno, not Frame, smiling up at him, golden diadem gleaming, sword in hand, before she vanishes in a burst of energy that leaves a trail of crackling, burning electricity. The words warm in his chest, illuminating the hollow spaces, and he turns away, satisfied. I have said it all. You love my voices? Aw. Tanky. Like, I know you say it pretty frequently, but still, I still do appreciate it. Like, you know, everyone's got that little, like, fear in the back of their mind where it's like, oh, yeah, maybe, is this actually cringe? Am I being super cringe right now? So I'm glad you don't think so. I'm glad you like it. Chapter 95. Judge has half a mind to kick Punk right between the knees to get him to shut up. Punk and Sheik have been trying to get Corey to take off her suit's hood for the past hour. Punk's been using his ember to increase the heat in the area as they hunt ghouls, and Sheik's been doing nothing about it. He has a feeling she's got money on some sort of outcome. Corey herself, he knows, is more than capable of stopping this if it really bothered her. And Corey is nothing if not stubborn and relentless in her studious adherence to her own personal standards. Judge is incredibly lucky to be considered someone she's willing to let in. Judge isn't going to step into this unless Corey wants him to, and she'll let him know when she wants that. Otherwise, he's staying out of it because Judge likes to think he isn't as much of a fool as he used to be, and only a fool would get between Corey and whatever plans she has for any unfortunate victim that crosses her path. So Judge turns around and goes back to trying to get Midas to stop actively digging up more Grineer ghouls. Judge is about 90% sure that Midas thinks this is a game, and that he wins by pulling up ghouls by their necks and bringing as many of them to Judge as possible. The problem is that Midas doesn't kill them, he just wakes them up and annoys them. So by the time that Midas drops them at Judge's feet, they're mad and more than willing to take it out on the Tenno in front of them. Ecstatic, even. As ecstatic as a Grineer ghoul could be, he supposes. He's not so certain of their emotional range aside from unconscious and frenzied rage. Surely there's something in the middle, but he has no idea how he'd go about trying to figure that one out. "Void!" she screams, followed by the sound of a loud and wordless scream from Punk. Judge turns around, heart pounding in his chest, followed by confusions. Sheik's hands are fisted up in front of her as she rapidly squeezes her fingers open and shut in frustration. Judge boggles as he watches Punk fall to his knees, hands in the air as he screams, "Why are you like this? Who made you this way?" "You sadistic person," Sheik snarls. "What? You're right. It's hot. I remove my hood." Judge's eyes snap to Corey, who's been leisurely following behind them while encouraging Alpha, the dog, to explore on his own. Mostly Alpha seems too nervous of the planes and the Grineer popping out of the ground and has stuck against Corey's side. Corey's hood is indeed off. But she's wearing Umbra's scarf underneath, some of the long folds wrapped around her pink hair, and Judge squints, moving over to join the rest of them. She's wearing one of Nakok's Excalibur masks. Judge didn't know that Corey knew who Nakok was, let alone that she'd be willing to buy something off of her. Corey makes a show of looking around, idly playing with one weighted end of the black scarf. "Such a beautiful day. The sun in the sky, the breeze on your face. I should do this more often." And Judge knows from her tone of voice, with the way she's laying it on thick, people in the outer terminus would hear it. She's messing with them. Judge bites his lip to hide his laugh as Corey flips one scarf end over her shoulder and continues to calmly walk past the two dramatic Tenno wailing on the ground. He falls into step with her as she passes.
"How'd you fit all that underneath the cowl? Isn't yours pretty skin tight?"
"A quick jump to the void for the switch out," Corey says.
"And the mask?"
"Alpha, the Tenno, gave it to me. One of his various dogs found it and brought it to him. I think he has about 30 of them, and he's been trying to get rid of them," Corey says, and then tilts her head meaningfully towards him. "Because unlike some people, he understands that he doesn't need 30 of something he'll never use, and he should just get rid of it."
"Hey," Judge protests, "we ended up needing all those crewman hats after all."
Corey shrugs her shoulders, walking closer to him to bump against him playfully. Underneath this thing, I can fit another mask and maybe some glasses. I could keep this going forever."
"You shouldn't tease them. They're only like that because you make it so hard," Judge points out. "If you show them your face once, they'll probably let it go after half an hour and it'll just be normal."
"But I tease them like this because they're trying so hard. They're the ones egging me on," Corey replies. "It's the anticipation that gets them, really."
Judge rolls his eyes. "I almost think you like Tilregor with the way you mock him so fondly."
"Then you're a fool," Corey says, watching as Alpha leaves her side to investigate a shallow pool of water, short tail gently bobbing as he snuffles under his breath. Alpha turns towards them, feet tamping at the ground, ears pricked at attention, before turning back down at the water and jumping in place. "I think he likes it." Alpha then does something like a sneeze, shaking himself out and coming back over to Corey and leaning against her as she walks.
"Not as much as he likes you, apparently," Judge muses. "Is there any Roxa mist... Is there any Roxa mixed in there? He never leaves you."
"Maybe," Corey says. "He's intimidating enough when he wants to be." Corey's head turns up at the same time Alpha's ears swivel to Judge's right.
"What?"
"Where's Midas?" Judge grimaces.
"Void, he's probably found another ghoul nest by now."
He turns to the two Tenno in the background.
Guys, incoming. Are you okay? She has a mask! Under the mask! Punk howls. What kind of Sisyphean torture is this?
Big words for such a small brain. I'm almost impressed, Corey mutters under her breath. Judge elbows her. I said...
I mean quieter, not louder.
Judge cuts her off before she can repeat it fully. Judge can feel her smirk as she takes one glimmering step forward and is enveloped in the body of her Warframe. Judge copies her a moment later and she laughs through their private channel. This is right up there with mocking Telregor or beating the snot out of Vahek.
You shouldn't torment them like that, Judge says. It's only going to come around to bite me in the bottom.
Part of the fun, Corey replies. You're at your best when you're exasperated. I once watched you hack a bursa in 4 keystrokes when you were getting annoyed by Sheik and Punk arguing about an anti-MOA unit.
They just wouldn't shut up about the best place to target it.
You're glad that I'm having fun with it? Hey, I'm glad that you're glad that I'm having fun with it. Because that means we're all having fun with it. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Enjoy the indoors. Hope you had a nice time outside. Anyway. Yeah. We're just going to continue on with the rest of the book. We're on chapter... Facts? For sure. Absolute facts. Anyway, we're on chapter 96 of book 5. And for the people who are new and just joining us, don't worry, it is episodic in nature. There's no overlying plot. You just listen to it a chapter at a time. Each chapter is isolated from everyone else, and each chapter is awesome. I love that last one where it's like... At this point, Corey's just trolling them. She's got a mask under her hood, and under that mask, she has another mask, and under that mask, she has sunglasses. Like, that's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Anyway. Chapter 96.
I can't help it.
Judge defends himself feebly as Corey smacks his leg. Stand up straight. This is hard enough already, Corey says, from where she's crouched on the floor next to him. She holds up a length of string with knots interspersed through it at regular intervals. What the heck, Judge? Stop growing. I can't get the measurements out fast enough. And do you know how hard it is to get new suits made? Even if you go straight to the quills, it takes time for them to get the materials. And by the time they're done with one suit, you've outgrown it.
I'm sorry, I can't stop growing, Judge says. I'm not doing it on purpose.
Are you sure? It feels like you are, Corey says, muttering numbers to herself under her breath as she wraps her hand around his ankle and tugs. At this point, he's familiar enough with the process that he spreads his stance apart just a little so Corey can get his inseam. It's not like I can just go up to a marketplace and find this material, Corey says, and someone has to actually put this together. I can't keep just buying this. People are going to think I'm starting a business. You are literally a full-time business with the way you're growing. The shoes, the suits, the underclothes, the sleepwear, all of it.
I'll pay,
Judge says. That's not a question at this point. It's a lot of material, Corey says, scowling. Can you slow down the growing? Is there something you can take for that?
Poison would mean I stop growing forever,
Judge says, trying to tease a smile out of her. Corey, instead, looks contemplative.
No, that's a joke. I wanted you to laugh, Corey. Don't poison me.
But maybe a little poison. Or maybe if we put you in stasis for a while, it would deactivate whatever hormone is making you grow.
Corey, it's puberty. It just happens. You can't stop puberty.
That's a challenge.
It really, really isn't.
Corey sits back, looking up at him, brushing her hair out of her eyes. Judge is tempted to touch his fingers to the ridges of green-blue around her right eye. He curls his fingers into his palms and puts them behind his back to ward off the temptation. We could ask the Alpha if he has some old suits, Corey says. I mean, he's tall. We could recycle some of those to make some stuff for you and have material left over. I don't think he'd mind. I'm going to call him. Something about cutting up and wearing Alpha's old clothes makes Judge feel weird. It's like defacing something holy, maybe. Alpha picks up after about a minute. Yes.
Hi.
Judge says. Judge is growing too fast, Corey says. Do you have any old clothes we could use? Given the Alpha's naturally silent everything, it takes a lot of faith to believe that he hasn't hung up, especially when he's quiet for so long. But Judge has gotten a bit of experience with the other Tenno and can sort of tell the difference between the silence of Alpha thinking and the silence of no one being there at all. He's got about a 46 success rate so far. It's not 50 yet, but it's pretty good compared to when he first met the other Tenno. No, Alpha finally answers. I looked. She took them.
The Empress?
Yes, the Alpha confirms. Likes to keep them. Sorry, haven't had any others in a long time. No growth. The Alpha sounds a little disappointed towards the end of that. Judge has no idea why. He's already so tall. It seems like a hassle to get any taller than that. I'll ask her, the Alpha says, and then there's a faint ringing in the background as he patches in a new connection. The Empress picks up in about half a minute. Yes? All the clothes, Alpha says. Judge is hitting puberty. Growing fast. Are there any? Oh, that's nice, Empress says, sounding genuinely delighted. I have some of your old clothes on my ship. I'll air them out and bring them. They might be a little too big for him still. They're on.
Hi.
Hi, we're going to cut them and use them for material. If it's okay if they're too big, Corey says. Can I meet you at the strata relay? Give me about a day, the Empress says. I'm on Sedna right now. Once I wrap up here, I'll air them out and send you a message. Oh, I've got to go now. The bombards make it so hard to hear well. It's like they don't have any manners. You just don't interrupt a conversation. The Empress hangs up just as the sound of something exploding gets through the connection. I'll ask Punk, the Alpha says. Similar size, less work. Void, no! Judge and Corey say at the same time. Alpha's silence is questioning and confused, also maybe a little hurt. Judge is getting very good at this.
He's Punk,
Judge says, as gently as possible.
I mean, his ceiling is black and he's always got Kuva stains on everything. I'd rather not.
Oh.
Thank you, though.
Okay.
Really, thank you. We're going to hang up now.
There's an almost awkward pause where Judge really can't tell if Alpha is still there or not before he says, bye, and then disconnects. Corey holds out her hand and Judge takes it, helping her stand. He can feel the heat of her void energy through his sleeve as she squeezes his hand, letting go and stepping away after she steadies herself. No more growing, Corey says. I'm going to message my clan for more cloth and see if they've got your new boots finished or if there's time to adjust them. No growing while I'm away.
I promise nothing,
Judge replies, grin lopsided as Corey gives him an annoyed look.
I'd give you some of my hide if I could.
Why? Corey says. I don't want to get tall. Everything in my ship is customized to my exact height right now. That'd be a pain. I mean, you need to throw most of your garbage away anyway, but I'm operating at peak efficiency. Alpha's such a sweetheart. Like, he's such a sweetheart. An Empress hoarding all of his clothes, like, she's got to have, like, a giant pile that she probably sniffs or something in a creepy manner. I wouldn't put it past her. Anyway, that took a weird turn. Forget I said anything. I didn't say anything. Anyway, I'm moving on to the next chapter. Nobody's saying a comment because you guys didn't hear anything. There was a dead silence in between the last chapter and this chapter. Yes, that is what happened. Chapter 97. Judge finishes circling the Grenier encampment and finds Corey's Nidus half mutated and sitting on a large moss-covered rock. Nidus's feet are firmly planted apart and her sword is driven through the ground. Nidus's metal-coated hands resting over the pommel.
You didn't.
I didn't, Corey confirms. Unlike some people, I've never had a habit of rushing in.
I've gotten better,
Judge says. Nova is slim enough that she can also sit on the rock with Corey's Nidus.
You have to admit, I'm starting to be more of a tactician than a fool. You don't have to run after me so much anymore.
Nidus's thigh and knee bumps against Nova's as Corey spreads Nidus's legs a little more, slouching back, crossing an ankle over Nidus's thigh. Corey, in her own body, would never sit in such a way. He's not sure if it's being in a big body or if it's just the mindset she has when she's a Nidus, but being in her different frames changes Corey's body language by a lot. Judge is getting pretty fluent, though. Once a fool, always a fool, Corey says, tugging at Judge's Sayandana with her free hand. Find anything?
I've got patrols, Judge says. When the others get here, I'll lay out the schedules. It's not as bad as we thought, considering how many times we've chased Heck down. I thought he would have upped security.
Overconfident twat, Corey says. Also an annoying and persistent one. I'd rather fight the Ruck.
You just like watching Ruck stagger and splutter when you shoot him in the chest.
It's like he thinks it isn't a literal glowing target, Corey says. He gets all offended on you, like you've done something unspeakable and socially inappropriate.
Shooting people in the chest is socially inappropriate.
In a fight, no such thing.
Right. What did you find?
Nidus shrugs a shoulder. Nothing interesting. I've sent Empress the Charger in to sniff stuff out. She'll be back eventually. Maybe she'll agitate some of the wild Kubro into attacking the Grenier. Give us a bit of distraction to get through to Heck a little faster this time.
Good idea, Judge says, and then looks around. You know, I don't think I've ever really appreciated how nice the Earth's jungles are at night. Normally we're at the plains. I kind of see why Alpha's normally around here.
I'm surprised he didn't come with us for this one, Corey says. Any chance to mess up someone messing with his home planet is one he'd normally take, maybe even initiate.
Yeah.
Judge slowly opens and closes Nova's fingers.
I think he and Empress had something to do somewhere else. I asked him about it since I figured he'd probably have more intel than we do, but I couldn't get a message through. I think he's off planet on some sort of mission, otherwise he would have responded.
Nidus's tapered fingers work their way up Nova's Sayandana to the base of Nova's neck, idly poking and prodding at the back of Nova's head case where the panels open.
Quit it, Judge says. That tickles.
Oh, well, since it tickles, Corey says, playfully running Nidus's pointed fingertips over the paneling. It feels like someone's running something over his scalp, or dragging a finger down the inside of Judge's forearm. Nova lets out a small jolt of sparks, and the panels on the back of her head flutter open, releasing an exhaustive energy. Judge shrugs Corey's hand off, and Corey laughs, sitting up and putting Nidus's arm around Nova's shoulder. Judge playfully shoves at Nidus's chest.
Nidus's second set of arms feel really weird, Judge says as they jostle each other back and forth. Like extra jiggly protein brick, Corey says in understanding. She gives him a light check with her hip, and Judge shoulders her back. In a battle between these two frames and physical strength, Nova does not win. Nah, Judge agrees. But if I really get you, I can run away really fast.
The fool rushes.
Away?
Out of one fire, into another, usually. Corey lazily slings Nidus's arm over Nova's shoulders. Did you give Punk and Sheik an ETA for when they should come back? I want to mess this guy up so I can go to sleep. Eat some protein brick with green flavor, maybe watch some vid streams I borrowed from Samaras' data library, and then go to sleep.
No, that sounds like a nice night in, Judge says. Could I be invited to this?
Bring your own protein brick, Corey replies instantly, and bring your new game console, the one you got from Samaras.
The one you said was dumb?
Yeah, that one. I want to watch you get your butt kicked in a digital simulator.
It's a broken game. It's impossible to get through, Judge says. It's not me.
Right, excuses, Corey says, and then turns. Hey, she's back. Just as Corey says this, there's a loud rustling, and something large comes flying out of the brush, skidding to a halt right at their feet. Corey pulls her sword out of the ground and stabs it back down, straight into the gap between the Grineer's helmet and chest plate, skewering and pinning the now dead Grineer through the throat. Empress, the helmet's charger, comes trotting out of the brush, tail swaying back and forth. She lets out one soft bark, mandibles opening and proboscis slithering out to taste the air. Good girl, Corey coos as the charger comes over, stepping over and on the corpse to get some affectionate scratches from her master. Judge, that's one of the higher-ranked guards. Check the pockets.
On it.
Judge says, standing up off the rock and walking around the corpse.
Did you train your companions to know the rank of Grineer they target?
Of course not. They have common sense, Corey replies. They recognize the biggest jerk on sight. Judge chuckles under his breath.
Right. Could you remove the sword so I can flip this guy over?
Corey pulls her sword up and returns it to its sheath at her hip, sitting back down on the rock and patting Nidus's thighs. The helmet charger immediately jumps up and sprawls like she's still just a puppy and actually capable of fitting on someone's lap. Seriously though, did you tell them what time to come back? I want to go already. Judge is about to answer when their squad's comm line crackles to life and Sheik's voice says, "We've got a situation."
A punk situation?
Judge asks. No, a sentient swarm situation. Get over here. Sending coordinates. Cheek out. Judge and Corey both exchange glances.
Well, there goes our protein brick dinner,
Judge sighs, straightening up and reorienting himself in the direction of the coordinates Sheik sent. I should have pretended I was sick, Corey mutters, nudging Empress off and drawing her sword again. All right, let's get it done, I guess. That was just such a wholesome chapter. Them just... yeah, I liked the chapter. Anyway, I like most chapters, to be fair. Never mind. I'm just gonna keep reading. Oh wait, no, I was gonna check something. So a bunch of sentients showed up. I'm gonna try and check the timestamps of the comments to see if that lined up with an in-game event or if it was just a random one-off. Nah, it's just a random one-off thing. It didn't correspond to an event. Cool. When I think sentience on Earth, I always automatically think Scarlet Spear, but like we're nowhere near that in the timeline. Scarlet Spear. If I ever write a Warframe story, it's gonna be about Scarlet Spear. For sure. Anyway. Chapter 98. Who says this? Okay, here we go. Chapter 98. Hey! It goes without saying that Corey calmly, studiously, and tenaciously ignores the other Tenno and continues to proceed with tracking Grineer patrol patterns through her Rubico's scope. It's not possible to get a stealth headshot at all of them, but if she times it right, she can get them just as they turn and punch through 2 or 3 of them and then take out maybe 4 more before the rotation turns around and gets on guard.
Persephone.
Corey reaches over and rests her hand on the back of Empress the Charger's neck and gives the creature a gentle push. Empress silently goes off to watch for incoming Grineer. I know you can hear me. She can also see him too, unfortunately. Punk is a very blue, very obvious, and very obnoxious thorn in Corey's side that she just can't seem to shake. He's currently sitting next to her, legs dangling off of the metal railing in his chroma and fiddling with a codex scanner. This must be something like what Judge feels with the man in the wall, the void voice. But not exactly, because Judge is afraid of the man in the wall, whereas Corey just wants to push Punk off the ledge and watch him go splat. He won't go splat. As an annoying and as dumbfounding as the Tenno is, Corey admits he is capable in a very unlucky way that it only works when it shouldn't. He'd survive, or parkour to a ledge, or worse, ruin Corey's patrol patterns. Corey's not sure exactly how they got to this moment in time. Judge isn't here. Sheik isn't here. The Empress isn't here. The Alpha isn't here. It's just the 2 of them on this Grineer factory on Ceres. Kuva wasn't even involved. Honestly, Corey's not sure if she got here and found him or vice versa, but somehow they're now sharing Corey's perch.
Seth, Persephone, Ni, Oni, Phony, Sepho.
If she turns her scope on him, it'll be zoomed in for a good shot. Though honestly, if she turned her rifle fast enough, she'd probably whack him in the face. It would not be satisfying.
Percy. Hey, I like that one. Percy.
If I let you call me that, will you do it in your head and stop talking out loud?
There are worse things to be called than Percy.
Thing, monster, creature, experiment, subject, slave.
Hey, Percy, how old are you?
Corey slowly turns from her rifle. You know how old we are.
I mean, how do you count it? Punk asks. Because Joy, that's chic. I think you know that. I'm pretty sure you do. You're just so stoic about not using real names. What's up with that? Joy and I are having a debate. I think that you count everything. Joy says you only count the parts that you're awake for. But then I asked her what she meant by awake, and she said awake as a Tenno. So like, the parts we forgot that were actually people and not Warframes don't count. So like, the Warframes that are being used by the unawakened Tenno, by Joy's count, those Tenno aren't aging. So, how do you count your age?
Everything, Corey says. It's how long I've physically been present in this world, regardless of my mental state of mind. Again, Corey doesn't know how she feels about being on the same track of thoughts as Punk, but really, she isn't in the mood for a philosophical debate on the soul and the body and the divide of time and consciousness.
What does Judge think?
Corey swings the rifle around.
He told me his name.
Corey swings the rifle back towards the Grenier.
You really like him.
Corey shrugs and replies, Hades is the good that will remain within me and around me, even when there is no me left. It is the truth, nothing more and nothing less. She knew him before she knew herself. She knew him without knowing there was anything to know. Corey would know Judge no matter the state of her soul, in this body and in the next and in the one after that. Corey would know him 1,000 years and 1,000 lives and 1,000 remembering and forgettings from now. And she is not ashamed of it.
Wow, Punk says. That was crazy deep, Percy. Do you normally go that deep? I mean, normally when we talk, it's me talking at you, and sometimes talking about food, so I don't normally get this out of you. Is this what you're normally like?
When you ask me questions about Hades, yes, Corey says. Again, generally the truth. Unless he's being a fool.
Based on what he says, you always think he's being a fool.
Just because I think he's being a fool doesn't mean he always is a fool, Corey says. Just like how I think you're a dullard, but you aren't always a complete disaster of a person.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
I hope you had that on recording. I doubt I'll ever top that, Corey says. Are you going to sit here and talk this entire time or do something?
All right, Punk says. I actually did come here for something.
What? Whatever it is, do it and leave me alone. I'm here to relax. You're the literal opposite of relaxation for me. Just as Corey says that, she hears the signature sound of systems powering down and alarms blaring. She feels the unique static and interference through her transference that could only be... Did you lure the stalker here?
No, Punk protests as Corey puts her rifle away.
As Corey puts her rifle away and draws her sword, raising out of her crouched position.
I came here because I heard one of his disciples was spotted in the area and I wanted to take a look.
You couldn't have opened with that instead of asking me a philosophical question about our ages? Corey spits. You void-blasted twit! How does she put up with you? Punk swings a great sword off his back and shrugs.
I'm good, money. And she likes my face a lot. If it makes you feel any better, whoever it is, if they're a disciple, they can't be stronger than the stalker, right? And after all the training the Empress and the Alpha put us through, that's nothing. It'll be like a little workout.
As I work your splattered brains out of my boots, yes, Punk, it will be a workout.
Oh. That was the wrong sound effect. There we go. Ah! You didn't hear anything.
I don't know how Punk's always so optimistic around Corey. It's just like, what? Oh, good news. Guess what chapter we're on? Guess what chapter? It is chapter 99. We're almost into the triple digits, guys. That's exciting. We started at chapter 85, so that's 15 chapters. I promise I know how to do math. I promise. I can math. But yeah, chapter 99. Big 100 right up ahead. All right. Let's do this. Chapter 99. Hey, Percy, you got a bombard at your 7. You need any help with that, or are you good? I'm good. All heads swing around at once. Alpha's palm raises in time to catch a fist before calmly and almost effortlessly twisting and ripping the arm the fist is attached to clean off as Corey continues to plow through swarms of Grenier while Punk pounds his fists into a Nox. Did he just call you Percy? Sheik says, tucking behind a steel column as an eviscerator shoots at her. Did I get hacked again? Judge quickly moves up against Corey's back and whispers to her,
He called you Percy?
He heard it. They all heard it. It comes out as a question, though, because no one is sure that they didn't hallucinate it. Corey grunts at him and viciously shoves one of Nidus's sharp armored elbows into his Inaros' chest and slams them both to the side to avoid a charging shield lancer.
He called you Percy,
Judge repeats to her, making sure to keep this out of their general comms line because that one is already full, with Sheik repeatedly saying, You aren't dead? You called her Percy and she hasn't cleaved your head off? I heard, Corey says, sounding mildly irritated. Mildly. Just the regular brand of irritation she feels whenever they have to fight in a squad and people try to talk to her mid-fight as she's concentrating on building mutation. But not outraged, not furious, or rankled or slighted. Not any of the things Judge would have guessed if someone told him that Punk calls Corey Percy.
Percy.
Wait, hold up. Who's saying what?
Percy?
If you call me that, I don't care if you're you. I'll pile drive you into the ground so hard they won't be able to find the remains of your brain.
But he can call you Percy?
Listen, Corey says, grabbing him by the Syndana and hauling them across the room and away from a group of scorches that had strategically lined up to hit as wide a spread as possible. I had to make concessions for my own sanity. Percy is the least of my worries. Percy, I can live with. Him? Nidus points a metal-tipped finger at Punk, who looks like he's covered in strawberry jam straight from Cetus because of all the flesh matter on his fists. Him? If I have to listen to him drag out the name Persephone 17 different ways for one more millisecond, I'm going to throw him into the sun.
Percy,
Judge repeats dumbly. Percy, help! Corey doesn't even look. She just angles Nidus's hip a little and stomps down hard, releasing a line of mutation straight towards Punk. Its strikes travel up the bodies of a ballista and 2 troopers, rending their flesh instantly. Nidus's armor plates gleam viciously as they sharpen and extend even further. You're the one who brought them around, and I'm dealing with it, Corey says, releasing Inaros' Syndana and turning around, flinging her hand outwards as a larva growth blossoms around several Grenier rushing Sheik and Alpha. Judge grimaces at the wet slurping and chewing noises the larva makes as Empress and Alpha switch to concentrating fire on the Grenier trapped in the larva swarm's tentacles and teeth.
Are you friends with him then?
He barely manages to avoid Corey's heel stomp in time.
Okay,
Judge says, backing off, hands raised in surrender.
Sorry?
Buy me red flavor and I'll consider forgiving you.
For him calling you Percy?
What else would you be apologizing for?
So, you are friends with him?
Judge ducks down to avoid the punch Corey threw at his face. Don't be stupid, fool. Judge takes that as a yes that she won't admit and goes to assist Punk. Corey slumps, knees shaking, as she does her best to enter a controlled fall to the ground. It mostly works as she rolls onto her back, chest heaving, as she closes her eyes and tries to get her entire body to stop shaking. She hears Punk also fall, not as gracefully, a few yards away, and start groaning. They just keep coming. Waves of sentience. Neither Cheek nor Jude's void powers are especially strong offensively, so it was all Corey and Punk. Wait. Is this Jude or Judge? Because Judge's name is Jude. Hold up. Jude. Okay, cool. It's a typo. Awesome. Okay. Neither Sheik or Judge's void powers are especially strong offensively. So, wait. Yes. Sorry. let me start that chapter over. I'm starting it over. Corey slumps, knees shaking, as she does her best to enter a controlled fall to the ground. It mostly works as she rolls onto her back, chest heaving, as she closes her eyes and tries to get her entire body to stop shaking. She hears Punk also fall, not as gracefully, a few yards away, and start groaning. They just keep coming. Waves of sentience. Neither Cheek or Judge's void powers are especially strong offensively, so it was all Corey and Punk. She can feel Judge coming close to her, the strange calming buzzing of his void energy clashing up against hers, then softly settling, like mixing paint that doesn't quite blend, but somehow spins together? Words are hard.
Take the hood off, you aren't getting enough air.
Judge says, and she feels his gloved hands on her chest as he pushes his energy into her in waves to deplete her low energy.
Persephone!
She can't actually answer because she's still gasping for air, but she gets one shaking hand to the top of the hood and releases the latch, dragging the front of the hood's face panel down. Her sweat-damp skin tingles in the cold night air. She didn't realize how cold it actually is. She's so hot. Judge's face is worried above her, eyes glowing magenta as his energy continues to wash over her and leak out into the surroundings in a brilliant, saturated light show. Bring in another one to you, Sheik yells out over the sound of Punk's groaning. I've got him stable, physically, but he needs some energy.
Go away.
Sorry, wrong person. Go away, he's my battery, Corey says, without heat. Judge's lips quirk up into a smile, and he gently arranges Corey's head so her face is partially obscured. Void, she loves him so much. There's a loud thump, and Corey feels Punk's energy, unusually low and quiet and feeble, close to her, as well as Sheik's energy. Need help? Sheik asks as Corey closes her eyes. She feels one of Judge's hands leave her, one hand on Punk, one on her, and a different touch on her wrist. Sheik's own energy starts to spill out and over them, a light feeling, like walking through warm mist that makes Corey's skin tingle. Not quite numbness, but a strange rippling feeling as her bruises and exhausted muscles start to ease up.
That was close, Judge said. What summoned all of them?
Corey almost wants to spit out Ballas or Umbra or me. She's too tired for it. Good news is that we survived getting rid of them, Sheik says. Thank the stars we weren't alone. Could you imagine if it was just me? Or me and you? Or just you and Persephone? We need to squat up more. The system is getting too unstable.
Punk groans. I'm starving. Does anyone have protein brick? I'll eat it bland and flavorless. No complaints right now. Void, I'll eat the dead sentient body parts if that's all we have.
Have Hades throw a spear. He'll hit a Kondrak mid-air, Corey says.
Judge laughs. That wasn't on purpose. I don't think I'll ever be able to do it again. Yeah, I'll get some protein brick once I'm done stabilizing you two.
I like that idea of they had 2 high DPS Tenno doing all the damage, and then when they ran out of energy, the 2 who weren't doing damage refilled them. Like, I like that. That's a cool dynamic. Almost to 100. How many in total? Let's check. Let's check. 186. We are past the halfway mark. Woo woo. 186 out of question mark. It is still an ongoing series. It was last updated September 2019. So it's not like a constantly being updated series, but dang. 186 chapters is nothing to sneeze at. And they were all written in 2 years, 2017 to 2019. Like, that is some dedication. Sleeping time, bedtime. Have a good night, Jeff Maximum. I don't know, you're probably not here anymore, but have a good night anyway. I give you retroactive good nights. So when hostile pilot driver gotta hyperbolize everything, right? Do it to the extreme. Exaggerate for the funniest effect. Yep. Glad you guys are enjoying it too. Like I just want to share it with you guys. I love this story so much. Guys, check out the author. The author's got other stuff probably that I haven't read. I've only read the Warframe stuff. I think they have a lot of like Batman stories. I don't know. Oh, you are still here. Oh, hey. Well, have a good night. You're having to bed. See you later. Read some more One Piece. When I get the chance. Maybe. We'll see. All right. Have a good one. Yeah. Enjoy your One Piece as you head off. Alrighty-o. The big 100. Chapter 100. Chapter 100. This is going to sound weird, but does your girl like anything? Sheik says. Anything that isn't making Corpus miserable or Tal Regor especially furious?
Why?
Judge replies.
Those are pretty much the only two 100% effective ways I know to make Persephone feel better.
We're approaching the end of the earth here, and I wanted to get her something, Sheik replies. But I have no idea what she'd like. Judge opens his mouth to answer, but stops.
Yeah,
right? Sheik says. Does anything make her happy? Judge would say a new weapon, but he doesn't really want to encourage Corey's near worryingly obsessive need to collect weapons, test them until they're dull metal, and recycle them for parts. Judge has seen her arsenal change over the course of days, sometimes hours. He knows that she keeps some of the weapons she uses, but some of them he never sees again. He would also say some sort of accessory, but Corey can be picky with her aesthetics. Judge once bought a Sayandana he thought looked pretty cool, and looked similar to something Corey already had. She'd taken one look at him, and then didn't look in his direction for about 2 days, and Judge knew he'd chosen wrong. He still has the Sayandana. He just doesn't wear it when it's important that Corey's in a particularly giving mood. What do you give her? Sheik asks, and Judge's mind is one very long, panicked burst of white and ringing in the ears, because he doesn't think he's ever given Corey a present, ever. Corey's given him gum. She keeps giving him gum, because no matter how many of them he goes through, there's always more than enough for him and for her, because he's seen her rifle through his stash when she gets bored. She's given him clothes. She's given him blueprints. When they first started off, she gave him coordinates, ciphers, and a dozen other things. Judge can't really think of anything he's given her except for flavor powder for her protein brick, and that one time on Earth when they listened to old Earth reels. He's a terrible person. Void, he's a terrible person. He can't remember ever getting Corey a gift. Judge comes back to it when Sheik punches his arm.
Oh!
There you are. What was that?
I just realized I'm a terrible person.
While you were doing that, did you happen to remember anything about your girl's likes and dislikes, of which I know there are many?
So many. So very many, Judge says. She likes green flavor, but not that green flavor, but the other green flavor, you know?
Sheik stares at him blankly.
Spicy honey?
I'm not dumping your girlfriend in molten steel just because she's curious about how it would play out.
Well,
Judge rubs his arm where Sheik punched him.
there's this one thing she likes, but it's not something you can really get her. It's all I can think of, though.
What? Judge shivers and shifts on his feet uncomfortably.
Well, you know how she really, really likes being a nidus now?
Yes?
Well, nidus is so wrong.
Judge says.
There's so many parts that just shouldn't be happening at once. And a while back when the designs for the nidus modification spread out and she was redoing her frame, I asked her if I could touch the brain.
Sheik just stares at him.
I know, Judge bursts out. It's kind of dumb and weird and gross, but at the time it was fascinating and repulsing at the same time. Nidus's brain is just always out there, all the time. No defenses, and I wanted to see what would happen if I touched it. And she let me, and I touched her brain, and it was terrible. I could feel the tissue resisting, and it was also a little weirdly grippy, but then it pushed back like a sponge, and it's just so bad.
Judge shivers and gags a little. Why would you want to touch it? Of course it's bad, Sheik says. It's a brain.
I know, I regretted it immediately, and I've been regretting it constantly, all the time, but...
Judge stops and steels himself.
She liked it, because sometimes she'll be in her nidus and just look at me, and I get this weird feeling, and then she does this thing with her head, and I can just tell she wants me to do it again, so I end up giving her brain scratches.
Judge shivers again.
The texture and image is so wrong, but she likes it, and there are so few interactions that she'll initiate willingly for herself that I can't just not do it.
He had asked her about it, of course. Corey had shrugged and said it felt like sunshine made solid and running over her head. He asked her if she'd want him to run his hand through her hair, and she leaned her head towards him. He did it, and she stood there, frowning. No, it's better in nidus, she said. Judge immediately resigned himself to having to touch Nidus's brain for Corey's benefit for the extended future. This doesn't help me, boyo, Sheik says. I can't just buy her a head scratcher.
Maybe offer to scratch her brain for her,
Judge says. That's so awkward.
It's the only thing she likes enough to seek out,
Judge protests.
There's nothing else she likes. I'd say have you seen her ship, but the answer's an obvious no. She barely has any decorations up, and only one display next to that bird she bought at Cetus. Don't get her another bird, please.
Look, I can't promise that, because if I don't find something else, I'm going to have to default to something I know she'll like. And apparently she likes the bird enough to give it a display to look at. What else do you have for me? Judge racks his mind for something. Anything.
Swords?
She's got those.
She's got a bird, too.
You can have more than one bird.
You can have more than one sword.
And thus are birthed the brain scritches. It's just a funny image of Corey just like tilting her head and then like Judge screwing up his face and like grossly like trying not to reach out his hand, and it's like I don't know. I just think that's the funniest thing. It's so great. Anyway, chapter 100. There you go. Big milestone. That's not true, by the way. Judge has gotten Corey a gift. He got her jam. He got her jam because it reminded him of the sun. He wanted to give her the sun in a bottle, so he got her some like peach jam or something. So he isn't completely he hasn't not given her a gift. There you go. Anyway. What would I get Corey if I had to get her a present? Like, I wouldn't know. He is rightfully lost. Anyway. It's cute that Sheik wanted to get her a Christmas present for Tenno Bomb, I assume. Maybe it was just like I don't know when your birthday is, so here's a birthday present. Or I don't know. Anyway. Chapter 101. Corey's eyes open and the halls are white, like cream, like clouds. The light is dreamy, white and blue and gold, like the sun, but gentler and faded. This place is wrong. Corey knows this instantly. This place is wrong. These halls are already darkened. These halls are already crumbling and crumbled. Why is she here? The man in the wall? The last time she saw him was after Umbra, and it was so brief. It feels like she might have imagined it through the haze of watching Judge cut ballast down, of reconciling her memory with Umbra's, of everything. Corey looks down at herself. This is not a memory. Corey, even at the height of her tenure as one of Ballast's creatures, was never dressed this well. They did not dress their Tenno, their slaves, like this. As a Tenno, she was an object, a tool, a thing. She may have been dressed well, but she was not like this. Corey under ballast wore her white and cream transparent suit with blue accents, and she wore the piercings of gold and jade in her ears. Corey looks at her hands, bare except for a thin band of gold around her right wrist. She looks down at herself, at the simple flowing robes and the flashes of gold she sees and hears as she moves, a strange cool weight that bushes against her ears and neck as she turns and tries to understand what's happening. This is not a memory. She'd never dressed like this. Never. Not even before the Czarman. Corey hears the sound of a door sliding open and looks up in time to see it close again. "Wait," Corey calls out, bare feet tapping against smooth, cool flooring as she goes to the door. The door opens and she sees a shadow down the hall before it continues to go. Corey runs after it, searching for the familiar heat in her soul and coming up empty. Is this a dream? If this is a dream, she could will anything into existence. Tenno are at their most powerful in dreams, aren't they? Corey chases the shadow down unfamiliar hallways. The shadow waits for her at the end, at the corners, just out of view, but leaves as soon as she sees it. Corey comes to a circular room. Familiar. This is where Umbra died. Or where Umbra was born. One of those two terrible options. She knows it, even though it is clean of its infestation. There is no bed with a convalescing body, no portrait of a Dax, no game board, no instruments. The windows on either side of her display are two different scenes. One, the black and gold dreamscape of Umbra's mind. Corey braces her hands against the cool gold window and sticks her head through, instantly losing all sensation of hearing. It feels as though she's underwater, muffled and heavy. Umbra is not here. Part of her is glad. She told him to go and she meant it. It shouldn't hurt him anymore. Not like that. It shouldn't live with him so vividly, so clearly. Corey pulls back and turns to the other window. She doesn't recognize this scene at first, not until she tentatively sticks her head through. Somewhere on Earth, she thinks. Trees and running water, golden sunlight. But not Earth, because she's never seen this many flowers on Earth before. Is this her mind? As she sees Umbra, is this how hers is to be seen? A hand grasps her shoulder and Corey gasps, jerking back and turning, bringing her arms up in front of her out of reflex. The heat does not come. Umbra stands in front of her, calm and unbothered. His hand stays on her shoulder as she stares at him. He steps back, hand falling from his shoulder, but held out in front of himself. She takes his hand and he walks into his mind. And he walks her into his mind. The strange, not sound sensations lap against her as she walks into Umbra's mindscape and follows him. They don't go to the tree. They follow a different stone path, to a different doorway, window. Umbra does not go through, but he gestures for her to look through. Corey looks, and after a gentle nudge from Umbra, puts her head through. It's bright, and she's immediately buffeted by the sounds of laughter. Children's laughter. As her eyes adjust to the bright light, she sees children, dressed like she is now. They're running, not like Corey and Judge run. No, not like they're running after a target, or like they're running away from something out to kill them. These children run lazily, without a sense of danger or urgency. They laugh as they run, turning back and playfully tugging at each other. They're children at play. Corey recognizes none of them. They are not the children of the Zariman. These are not the Tenno. These are just children. Regular children. And among the children, her eyes seem to focus and zoom in on a single child. Oh. Oh, Isa. Corey watches a young Isa, dressed like she is, laughing, playing with a ball that lights up as he throws it, whirring and reassembling itself mid-air as it falls into the hands of one of its fellows. Then a whistle cuts through the memory, and all the children look off in another direction, and they all stop their games, running off towards the whistle as a voice calls out, "Back to your studies now!" A gentle touch on Corey's shoulder pulls her back out of the memory. She turns to Umbra, and she feels the faint and distant touch of his curiosity. He places a finger lightly on her chest and then points at the window. A question. Corey looks down at Isa's clothes on her body. "Are you asking me if I've ever been like Isa?" A child, a student, carefree, a person instead of a thing. Umbra's chin slowly dips down once. Corey closes her eyes, shaking her head. "I might have been a child once," Corey says. Her father, a technician. Her mother, a farmer. But not like Isa. Yay. So if you're confused, I think what's going on here is that the man in the wall probably linked her and Umbra while they were asleep. And Umbra's mind thing that it's talking about, his mind escape, it's that black and gold thing from the sacrifice where you're in that entirely black room and everything's outlined in gold, and then you meet Umbra at the very top. I think that's what it is. So it says she saw his mind space from her point of view, which is the black and gold, and then he saw her mind space from his point of view, which is the field of flowers. Yeah, it's such a sweet interaction between them where he's wondering if she was ever like his boy. Space dad is best dad. Umbra's such a good space dad. Dang, I haven't even played Umbra in a long time. Now I'm getting the feels. He's sitting there in my orbiter, just gathering dust, probably twiddling his thumbs, sobbing over poor little Isa, and I'm just la-di-da running around with my limbo. But there you go. Chapter 102. The alpha's shape is a tall, looming, menacing figure, moving strangely lopsided as it approaches. Judge can only really see the sharp, piercing glow of his gold eye and blue eye, and not much else aside from the suggestion of his shadow. According to Skyla's observations, Judge is getting used to the other Tenno's strange, fear-inducing aura. He's only displayed 2/3 the amount of stress as he used to when he and the Alpha first met. It's a good thing. Judge doesn't think his heart would be able to handle that much adrenaline on such a constant basis. "Found him like this," Alpha says, even voice low and barely audible even in the relative silence of the Cetus Plains at night. In winter even. Almost everything is eerily silent on Cetus during the winter, like there's nothing alive anymore. Alpha's Tenno body is tall and lanky, like someone stretched a person out a little too much and didn't bother with checking proportions. Judge isn't sure if that's just how the Tenno is, or if it's some side effect of the void. Alpha deposits a body at Judge's feet, and Judge bends down to inspect their latest problem. Well, Cetus's latest problem. "Welcome back," she calls out a few yards to Judge's left. "We found nothing." There's a quick ripple of energy, and Sheik appears right next to Judge as they stand over the body. Sheik holds her hand out to Judge, and Judge takes it, allowing some of his energy to flow into her. He's really going to have to get used to being used as a Tenno battery. It feels a little good to let some of the energy off. It's just weird that this is something he can do, and it's not something he's going to get locked up on an asteroid for. "I found traces," the Empress's voice says, and the three of them turn in time to see two ripples, one of a black deeper than the night as the Empress's deep and almost brown-red eyes glow into existence. Corey steps out of the void after her, a heat shimmer of gold, turquoise, and yellow eyes. "But we neither had the time nor the patience to track a hunch. What is this?" Before anyone can answer that, the body on the before anybody can answer that, the body on the ground lurches, gasping and flailing. Tenno! It's alive? Sheik yelps as they all jump back, encasing themselves in their warframes. Yes, the Alpha replies. Did you need it dead? Before the thing can scramble to its feet, the Empress spears her sword through its throat, pinning it down. They listen to its death gurgles in silence. No harm done, the Empress says. It's dead now. Sorry. No harm done, the Empress repeats, sliding Saren's hand over Oberon's back. Now, this is one of the ghouls from the new batch. Moved different, Alpha says. Acted different. Even buried different. I think so. Check. Sheik kicks the body for any response. One never knows with ghouls. I think we're good. Can I get started? Sheik asks, a pink shimmer as she steps out of her warframe again. Cool. I'm gonna crack this thing open then. Anyone want in? Corey steps out of her warframe, using Nidus's voice scrambler to respond. I want its eyes. Nidus's voice scrambler has always sounded like a strange mix of the helmet's eerie multi-layered voice and some sort of other deep whisper. It can lead to some very unnerving effects, like when she calls Sir Kavat kitty kitty in that voice. The phrase, I want its eyes, in that same voice, provides a similar sense of disturbing unease. What for? Judge asks. Experiments on the optic nerve, Corey replies. I want to compare it to helmets. I'm going to be sick. Corey's voice sounds wobbly on the comm lines, even through her voice scrambler. Why did I agree to this?
Punk, can you fly a little more steadier?
Judge asks. He'd be towing Corey behind him, except he's holding up the rear with cover fire.
Sorry, Punk says. I just get nervous when I have passengers. Hold on.
I'm going to throw up.
Can you hold that in?
Stop talking to me.
Don't worry, Percy. I've got you, girl.
Corey groans. Judge glances over his shoulder and sees the glimmer of Punk's Arcwing engines as he weaves through asteroids and dodges missiles. Corey's own engines are acting as auxiliary as she clings to his back. Once they land on the other ship, Sheik says, they'll be fine. Just lay down the cover fire. Your girl's the most dangerous among the four of us, and she needs to be on that ship.
Maybe I should have carried her over.
Punk flies like this for a living, Sheik says. He's a racer. Trust me, I know my sports. That's my living. Judge glances back again and sees that they're about halfway there.
Persephone, you okay?
Corey responds with a quiet groan. Maybe don't talk to her, Sheik says. Focus on the fight. It's very hard to focus on the fight when your partner sounds like they're going to paint their transference chair and vomit.
I'm just going to... Can we lay down cover fire while following behind them?
Hades!
Okay, sorry, I'm worried. There are a lot of things that Persephone isn't good at, and this is one of them.
It's cute that you have her, but don't get us killed worrying, Sheik says. They're almost there, okay? And just imagine the fury she's going to unleash when she's got her feet on steady ground and she isn't being ferried through missiles.
Or she'll be so unsteady she accidentally hits herself.
I don't think that's possible. Pretty sure Persephone could be concussed and blasted on all sides, and she still wouldn't accidentally hit herself. Hit Punk? Probably. Herself? Never.
You haven't seen how sick Arcwing makes her, Judge says. I'm worried. Punk's doing a lot of loops.
He's also a flashy showboat. Punk, knock it off.
Sorry, habit.
There, see? It'll be fine. Now can we focus? Minor spoilers for the Chimera prologue. Parentheses, consoles when. That is the author note. Okay, cool. Looks like we are at the Chimera prologue. So I love the Chimera prologue. I think it's one of my favorite quests. Like, there's just one quest and it's really short, but it's so well done. Like, basically the gist of it, because I'm going to spoil it for you. You have a void vision where you talk to Ballas and he talks about how the Lotus betrayed him and gives you a sword that is able to kill sentience. I don't think he has any right to moan about the Lotus betraying him because it's all on him, but whatever. That's just me. Chapter 103. She can feel the sentience approaching, like a crawling vibration along the back of her teeth and her skull, a throbbing, pulsing storm at the edges of her vision. She can feel them, almost taste the strange, void wrongness of them in the air. But her eyes remained focused on the thing in front of her, this creature. His face is turned away, but she would know it. She would know that face like she would know Judge's. She may forget hers, lose her own face and name and self, but how could she ever forget his? She wants to scream at him, demand that he look at her. For once in their shared history, that he looks at her, sees her, knows her, that he looks at her and sees Corey Persephone, and not some half shade of Margulis's dream, some strange twisted image of what he lost to his own stupid sense of self, not some sort of empty object free to project on. Suddenly, there's so many things she wants to ask him, things only he can answer because he is the only one who has ever held these answers. The voice that asks her to ask them sounds like Judge, the detective, the investigator, the instigator at times. The glowing sword between them thrums with power, the same power that Corey still feels in the vacated halls of the Orakin, the very same power Corey feels whenever she puts her hand on a relic, or focuses on an Ayatan star, or holds a prime weapon in her hands. The golden power of the height of the Empire. Ballas is turned away from her, and she wants to ask so many things. Why did you appear before Judge, leading him on this chase instead of me? Why did you use me to come through but inflict your violence on him? She wants to ask him why he does this now. Does he even know what's happening? She wants to ask him about his remorse, if any, about the things he would change. Why did he do that to Ortis? Why did he give her to Ortis, or Ortis to her? Why did he do all the things he did? To her, to Umbra, to Ortis, to Isa, to Margulis, to all of them. She wants to spit at him and turn away and leave him and his sword here, because a large part of her would rather die forever than take his help, take a single order from him again. There's a part of her that screams in fury, howls with it even. She would rather suffer the waves of war coming upon them empty-handed than win using his gifts. But there's another part of her, refined and honed and built upon by the once man who stands in front of her, that is practical and a weapon of war. It demands that she swallows her hurt and her pride and take the sword and the commands. There is also another secret sliver, so small it practically susurrs of a shade, that breaks with relief at being given a chance to command again, or by giving a command again. Susurrus, I don't know how to pronounce this. There is also another secret sliver, so small it practically a susurrus of a shade, that breaks with relief at being given a command again, at having a direction given instead of having to choose for herself. Corey's fingers hold steady just before grasping the hilt of this weapon that he has carved out of himself, trying to hide it away from the sentience piece by piece. Do you know who I am? Corey asks. And suddenly Ballas's hand is on hers, forcing her hand to curl around the hilt of the sword. He looks at her, the shining sentient beacon of an eye, near blinding at her as she squints. He smiles as her hand closes around the hilt, and she feels the thrum of power push through her skin and bones. How could I forget? That first good spring after Margulis, Ballas responds, as the sentient hum builds around them, the faint lights of their eyes glowing and burning light onto the dark space. Saren. Corey feels a pull in her chest, a lurching as she's jerked backwards by some force, hand closing empty, vision whiting out with the many lights shining on her. Even as she's being pulled back, Corey wants to scream, snarl in his face, no, not Saren. She was not the first Saren. She was not the best Saren. She was not the most successful Saren, or the fastest, or the best trained, or the most obedient. She was not even the Tenno that the Sarens were based on. She was a Saren, one of many. Corey wants to scream. She wants to throw this weapon back at his face and gut him with it. But as the light takes over her vision, she hears a whisper in her ears as though Ballas was right there. Excalibur-0013. Persephone. Her body lurches and she stumbles, but her arms circle around her back and hold her steady. Corey opens her eyes and she's back on her ship, the Lotus's helm right where it should be. No trace of the phantom doppelganger anywhere. Her mouth is dry and her heart is racing. She looks up and Umbra is looking down at her, calm and steady as she struggles to get her feet back under her. Move, she says, and he half drags her as she stumbles towards the foundry. The blueprint for Ballas's sword burns in her mind like after images of the sun. Umbra releases her as she falls upon the foundry, pulling up an empty window and starts copying down all the information as fast as she can. Get Judge, Corey says. Ordis, call Judge. I need ducats. I need them now. Operator, Ordis says, voice warbling with static. That sword. What is that? His voice cracks into Karis's deeper, rougher timbre. Where did you get that? Do you recognize it too, Ordis? Do you remember the killing blow? Corey would ask, if she weren't so focused on getting all of this down before she forgets it. The sentient slayer, Corey answers, watching the shape of the weapon appear before her on the screen as she enters data. The paracesis. Whoops. There we go. There we go. There we go. All right. We have time for one more chapter. One more chapter. Last chapter before the end. This is chapter 104. All right. Coming to a close. Let's kick off. Well, let's close out this stream and make it an awesome one. All right. Dun. Paracesis. Good old paracesis. The first of the level 40 weapons. That's always how I remember it. It's the very first weapon that can get to level 40. Chapter 104. I forgot how good you are at this, Judge says. His voice is weirdly high and his mouth keeps breaking into this wide grin that he can't stop. It just spreads, and he probably would look like an absolute lunatic if anyone could see him. Thankfully, when they're in transference, they use voice-only transmissions. Corey doesn't answer, but he watches a bullet tear through two void-corrupted lancers, splattering their brains over Orican white and gold walls, and also clip an osprey wing. And also clip an osprey in the wing, forcing it to wobble dangerously to back out. Corey and Alpha are on opposite sides of the large open room. Corey's somewhere up on one of the higher balconies, being guarded by her helmet's charger. Alpha's in his Ivara, strung up and hidden somewhere up by the ceiling and firing arrows as his invisible Kubro crush legs and bring back any arrows that can be reused. Judge isn't exactly sure where Alpha is, just that he's up there. Empress, for once, isn't in her Saren, but in an Excalibur. Judge hasn't seen the Empress at work in another Warframe before, aside from that one time when she was a Titania for Alpha, but even then he just saw them hugging and not really doing much combat. And she's easily shredding through the oncoming masses of corrupted that have fallen to the tower's main neural sentries. They could be here for days, he thinks, and she wouldn't even be close to tired. Empress's death cube is happily firing away next to her, powerful shot after shot as the Empress's blades slice through tendons and spin over throats. Punk and Sheik's shotguns are loud and echoing the cavernous chamber, drawing back into the fight. What? Sheik says, falling in next to him. She lightly taps Judge's arm, and he nods before transferring out of his warframe and using his powers to send a steady flow of energy through the Tenno closest to him. Punk's chroma nods at him before he releases his pelt and a stream of fire at once, blue flames licking over the smooth floor and the bodies on it. Judge definitely said that in the wrong channel. His ears are probably burning hotter than Punk's flames right now.
Nothing.
Sure, Sheik teases. Nothing. Nothing can get you to pay attention and stop mooning on... Nothing can get you to stop paying attention. Nothing can get you to pay attention and stop mooning over your girl taking headshots.
Thigh shots, Judge says, mostly by my count. Actually, that doesn't help my case, does it?
Judge quickly slides back into transference, resealing in the chamber as his consciousness flows back into his warframe. Nope, Punk says, leaving his chroma entirely to begin belching flame out around him. Empress and Alpha make no comment. It's not because they're too preoccupied. This is nothing compared to some of their other fights, but probably because they're being very nice to him. Corey's rifle has a silencer, but the sound the bullets make as they tear through the shields and bone alike is distinct compared to the sound of Alpha's arrows. Judge and Sheik both jerk back when the punch-through of one of her shots sends a body skidding past them, flecks of black, corrupted blood misting in the air from the heat of her bullet. Nice shot, Percy, Punk says, voice rasping as he wheezes, quickly returning to his chroma. Man, I never got snappers. I have no idea how you do it. You've got to teach me sometime. Don't shoot him in the head. I need that head for the rest of the body to win the next Lunaro match, Sheik says. There's a very distinct sound of Corey making a single tongue click of annoyance through the comms lines, garbled by Nidus's scrambler. How long are we going to hold this point? Sheik asks. Until I feel as though we've gained a suitable amount of recompense, the Empress says, or I get bored with this. You, of course, are free to leave as you will, however. Oh, thank goodness, Punk says. Not you, the Empress replies. You need to work on measuring out your abilities to last longer. You, Jude, have the endurance of a candle on a windy day. Judge feels the force of an arrow cut through his sandstorm and pin a heavy gunner to the wall by his eye. Thanks for the support, Judge says in the vague direction of the ceiling. Yes, the Alpha says, and Judge screams when he sees the Alpha's Ivara directly behind him, daggers in hand as he cuts a nullifier's throat open, tossing the body aside. Ivara nods at him and disappears in a ripple of energy. Judge turns around and chokes on another scream to see the Empress, the Tenno, her Excalibur unit several yards away, holding her two bloody croaker. They look so large compared to her small stature, and strangely brutal when taken in with the streamlined grace of her suit and hair. Come with me, she says, and Judge has no choice, really. When the Empress tells you to do something, you do it. The idea of not doing it is beyond understanding, but to leave his warframe and follow her. She cuts a path down with elegant ease, and Judge follows in the safety of the blood she leaves behind. She stops when they're closer to Punk, and she says, Work with Jude. You know how to measure your abilities. He does not. This is a good time to learn. What? And the Empress is gone, swallowed by pure darkness into the void as she cuts her way back across the room in a single dash that sunders enemies in her wake. Judge gapes and then quickly vanishes into void mode himself, wrapping himself in his own electric magenta energy. I could use a pick-me-up, Punk says, out of breath and unfairly jovial about the whole thing. So, here to teach me a thing or two about not blowing my fuse, partner? Judge has no idea how the Empress thinks he can teach Punk moderation. Really, he himself needs to be taught it. I am the wrong person for this job, Judge says, but he's not going to throw Corey under the bus by saying she's the one who taught him to look before he leaps. Alright, maybe don't belch out flames in one direction at full blast. Let's try that. There we go. Alright, I'll have the right sound effect next time I stream this. Oh, Macaulay Master, you want to pass out to this one? Thanks for an awesome awesome stream. Got you. Aw, thank you. Well, you're just milking compliments at this point, my dude, but I ain't gonna not fall to the bait. You the best. You guys are the best for showing up. Thank you so much, Macaulay Master, for sticking around for like so much of the stream. That's awesome of you. And Jeff, you and Jeff were around for like pretty much the whole thing. Like, holy cow. Anyway, you get some sleep. You sleep well. You make sure that you have a pleasant evening. Yeah, sorry I missed your messages earlier. I blame the lag. I blame the lag of the YouTube streams. It's got like a long lag compared to the Twitch streams, which is unfortunate, but oh well. Oh well, such is life. Well, I hope you guys all have a nice and wonderful time. I'm just talking in circles, but that's okay. I'm just going to do a little bit of news because I didn't do it at the beginning of the stream like I should have. So, on Saturday, not this Saturday, but the next one, I'm going to be having a collab stream with Kohen Haru. We're going to be playing Monster Hunter World. So, he's a cool streamer. He's a panda streamer. Or panda VTuber, my bad. And then I have a Halloween costume I'm working on. When will I wear the Halloween costume? I'm hoping I can get it done before Halloween. But we'll see. I'm having a lot of technical problems. Haha, Nebulux is having technical problems. What a surprise. But yeah. Hopefully I'll get that done before Halloween happens. Yay! I might have to Google. I've been getting a lot of error codes because I'm teaching myself Blender and all that good stuff. And apparently you need specific things in a model for it to be exported and all that good stuff. Anyway, enough about me. You guys have a good one. Just remember, if you're ever, what's it called? Oh, could you say hi to me and my friend Komiku Dekin Talenu? Yeah. Miguel Andrade, hello. Welcome to the stream. We are literally about to end the stream, sadly. But hello to you and your friend. Welcome. Yeah. I usually stream 3 hours. So this is the end of the 3 hours. So just right now it's at 56, right? So just go +4, to get to whatever hour it is for you, and then rewind 3 hours. And that's the time I usually stream. Stream on YouTube and Twitch. I also have a Twitter and a Discord where I post my schedules. And yeah. Hello. All right, now for realsies, I'm heading out. So if you guys are ever upset that you can't kill people IRL, just remember that you can always kill them with kindness. Have a wonderful night, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the reading. Bye-bye.